Okay then, so let's get on with Christmas Coronation Street and what we thought about. Well, we've said already on the show that we quite enjoyed it. I've got lots of positive feelings about this week's Corrie, and I know last week's Street Talk started a little bit more on the negative side. I wasn't too feeling it too much, but honestly, I was very happy with a lot of what happened this week. The mix of characters and stories were good. It had just that right amount of... Did it have much festive cheer? Maybe it didn't have too much festive cheer, but the drama and the action was all quite fun for me. So get ready to hear me talking very very joyously about what happened this week. Did you enjoy it on the whole? I think you gave it bangings every day, didn't you?
I thought it was a really great week of Corrie. There was some great stuff. The only sad regret I have is that it wasn't, like you say, very Christmassy. I always really like watching...
No snow this year.
Christmas dinner scenes. They're my favourite things to watch. I just like everyone around the table having laughs or arguments and throwing turkey legs or dropping their crackers in their gravy.
It was more wedding-y on Christmas Day, really, wasn't it?
But it was a very special day with a very special lady.
Yes, so we're going to talk about that story first, shall we? Gail's exit. I was kind of going back and forth what to call it. I mean, we had been calling this story the Plata Emportée, hadn't we? But I'm calling it Rodwell that ends well this week, even though she's not Rodwell anymore. But Gail has had her happy ending, and she has left the show after 50 years. So we'll start off by yabbering on about how that went.
I know they ended up as Mr. and Mrs. Chadwick, and I know that this would have definitely rattled a few people, but kind of it would be hilarious if they went away as Mr. and Mrs. Potter, because Jessie took her maiden name. Don't you think that would have been quite fun?
If they'd have engineered it that way, pottering off into the sunset.
We all know that Gail's husbands are just her accessories, aren't they? So why not?
Next up, we're going to be chatting about the Revenge of the Sis storyline, which I was very pleased took centre stage in today's episode, and an awful lot of Christmas Day as well. That was awful lot of fun. Up next, Gemma, Daisy's blooming. Have I shared you that storyline title with you before?
No.
She's blooming while pregnant. We've literally got... They might as well have just put in the dialogue between Jenny and Daisy today. Is this a Who's the Daddy storyline? Yes, it is a Who's the Daddy storyline. It's been a while since we had one. We wondered whether we were going to be getting one with... Dee Dee the other week, didn't we? Everybody's pregnant at the moment. So I've really...
Who else would have been Dee Dee's? The father of Dee Dee's child.
Oh no, maybe we didn't think it was that. No, we wondered whether it was going to be a Shona who's the daddy, didn't we? Yeah, that's right. There
might still be another one. There might still be two women. Why not? Why not double up?
What, might have the birth control fail?
Yeah.
Shoners.
Well, they've shown it this year with Toya.
Well, I enjoyed all this stuff, and then those are the main stories of the week, really. We had a little bit of the Swallow Their Pride story on Monday, but we've seen neither hide nor hair of old Lisa or Carla since Monday, have we?
They were just unbothered, eating their pizza, Christmas Day, ignoring all the drama like they should do, just them all together, and probably all sitting around having a nice, eating their pizza, watching Wallace and Gromit when Bobby comes in, and they're like... Oh, Bobby, sorry. We forgot that we didn't get you any pizza. We forgot you existed.
We also had a little bit of the Lauren story. I'm still calling it Frankie, my dear. I don't give a damn because I absolutely don't. But luckily, that was only one day that we had to put up with that. And then coming back with a vengeance.
I'm just shaking my head at this one.
We've heard this one before. The Poison Ken letter. Story with Cassie and Ken and Steve.
It's one of those jokes that only half works. Only half works written down and only half works being read out.
Excuse me. Right. Okay. So the Gail stories first, then, Gemma. Who would you want to? Do you want to do Gail?
If you want me to, I will.
You give Gail a send off. What's she been getting at to this season? Because there's quite a comeback, wasn't there? An unexpected, in inverted commas, return from a long dead character this week. Thought you might quite like to date this one.
Okay, so honestly, I'm going to tell you here, the stuff with the money and David and Jessie and everything, I'm still not really sure why I'm supposed to care about it or why it was involved in this storyline. I know that it's going to set something really big up. I can tell from the way that Kit was talking to Shona today that it's going to be a big deal. But it just felt so unnecessary and boring, honestly. Do you know what I mean?
And there we were saying we were just going to talk.
No, but it was just this one part. This one part is like, oh, the money. Like, okay, he's got a bag of money. And they're talking about laundering the money. I don't understand what he means. But he's done it. On Monday, he says, Jesse tells David, I've fully laundered the money. I wouldn't put it past Jesse to literally be there ironing it all bit by bit, not realising what laundering money is supposed to be. How has he done it? And why has he done it? And what difference does it make?
I thought, hasn't it, that he's put it all through
They're basically just swapping it, aren't they?
Through the villa renovations.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't care. All I need to know is that David stolen money from who? Harvey, and so he's going to be in trouble.
I think it's probably going to... Yes, it is. It's Harvey/Damon.
That's it, yeah, Damon.
And the Warners are out to get him, although we haven't seen them this week, have we?
No, they're obviously enjoying their Christmas somewhere else. Good for them, having the week off. So Gail hears them chatting, and Jesse has to sort of pretend that he was trying to keep it a secret, that he's booked their honeymoon to the Maldives.
Yeah.
And Gail's like, oh, I don't want to go to the Maldives. And he's like, well, I'll cancel it then. She says, no, it might be fine.
Well, they kind of put that line in there because they have to then make out that she's gone to Dr. Gaddis to get some kind of travel sickness pills or something. Because
no, it's anxiety pills because she didn't want to take a long haul flight.
Right.
And so then Gail tells them she's been to Dr. Gaddis to get something for the trip to the Maldives.
David had lots of great lines this week, but when he's like, birth control, when Gail said that gave me a good old chortle.
But also Gail was like... So, Gail tells Audrey that Dr. Gaddis wants to see her. And David's like, that's weird because you just went to go and see her, didn't you, Gran? And Audrey's like, well, maybe she's got her wires crossed. Because basically David's stirring everything.
He basically is. He's just totally stirring the pot.
Because he also dropped Jesse in it earlier, didn't he?
Mm.
So Jesse turns up later and he's got a cottage pie and he doesn't know if it's cottage or shepherd's, which annoyed Audrey and me because it's very easy to tell the difference.
You'd have thought that he might have been able to get to his age knowing the difference between them.
I don't understand how it's so difficult. Anyway, Audrey says, right, you need to get this out of your system, and if you do marry that man, you'll never see me again. Like, I'm not like giving you an ultimatum, I'm just saying, like, you will never see me again because I'm too old to travel and you're not going to come back to see me. I can't jet off all the time. Please stay with me in Weatherfield. And Gail says, I'm marrying Jesse and I'm getting the happily ever after. I deserve that, surely. And then Audrey's like, go and enjoy your pie, and it is a cottage pie, not a shepherd's pie.
This was the main part that kind of irked me a little bit. Audrey...
I know you don't agree with her, but I do. I think she's right. I think she is. She will never see her again. We know she won't because Gail's not coming back in the show.
Yeah, but Audrey can... People have been saying... I mean, they have the conversation about it. Maybe it's Tuesday, I can't remember, where like... it's so much easier to contact people these days. It is just a plane flight away. I think that she could go and see it. It's not easy. It's not like stepping out your front door and there she is, like happens now. But I think that she was wrong to try and deny Gail this piece of happiness and basically pour water over her wedding. I think that was really out of order.
She should have said it, but I am saying that she's not wrong when she's saying that it's going to change their relationship forever.
Yes, it will.
She's really old for this, such a big change. Mm. And I know that it's so easy to go to France or whatever, but it's not really. When you're getting on, you don't want to be fannying around. I'm already at that age, and I'm half her age.
I just think that it was a little bit of unnecessary drama running up to the wedding because it was obviously all going to be sorted.
Really selfish, and she it's not out of her character.
It's not out of character. I would have preferred it to have been a little bit more of a happier goodbye between them.
Well, they end up with it
by the time that they do. Yeah, but it felt
the drama.
It felt very a little bit contrived just because it was clearly going to end up with Audrey wishing her all the best and everything would be fine. So, is what I say about that.
Well, I don't agree with telling somebody what Audrey did, but I can sympathise with her. Mm. So Tuesday, Sally's filming her goodbye video. Max is going around asking for comments for this video that he's going to show at the wedding. And Then we get David and Shona looking through photo albums of old husbands. And
when Shona sees the one of who was it, Joe, and she's like, "Oh, is he the one that tried to kill himself?" Or
is he the one that fell in the water?
And what a tool she feels.
They're both laughing at this poor dead man. Anyway, Audrey calls Gail and says she's feeling ill, and David realises that he needs to go and have a word with her. So he goes to see her in the salon, and she's not really feeling ill; she's just sulking and feeling abandoned. And David says, you got to get used to this. David, Jesse's all right, really. He's helped me out. You know, he's a good man. And then Audrey's like, what do you mean helped him out with some tricky thing? Helped you out? And he's like, well, I can't tell you any details. He has to try and change the subject.
Yeah, this all came out. It just felt ever so slightly contrived to me. The fact that David would mention it that way, and then Audrey would pick up on it. Did it not bother you at
really.
all?
Maybe you should try watching it when you're drunk.
No, or just
Or if a duckling's back, isn't it? So Shona, Debbie was trying to hawk this. Is it a New Year's Eve party?
Yeah,
Roman themed.
No, or was it Christmas? I can't remember now. But you're right, yeah, it was a Roman-themed party.
Yeah, she was having an amazing... It sounded brilliant, but Shona does not like the sound of it, and eventually Debbie realises she's going to have to abandon this idea because everyone's a bunch of squares.
In the end, isn't it Roy that tells her, these are the Romans who ended up killing Jesus, and maybe it's not... culturally appropriate at this time. Yeah, I don't think that Roy would really care about that.
Nobody blames the Romans.
No, it was a fun little side story for about 3 scenes. I'm never going to complain about there being
more Debbie. I wanted to see
too much Debbie Webster on our screens.
I know we also complain whenever they have fancy dress parties, but I would really have liked to have seen everybody dressed up as Romans because that's so great. But when Shona tells Debbie that she doesn't want to go to this Roman-themed evening, Debbie's like, oh, well, it was all right for you the other day when you came to my hotel. And David's like, why were you at the hotel? Quickly changed the subject. So Roy is trying to record his video for Gail, and he's not doing a very good job of it. He's just like basically telling the story of how they met and reminiscing about boring things that
Roy's social ineptness was certainly turned up a notch this week, wasn't it? Because you had this and he wasn't able to record anything heartfelt, which I think these days he probably would be able to. And then you had during the wedding on Wednesday him pottering around in the background when the register was being signed and photos. Like, yeah, it was fun.
It was funny.
I thought it was funny, but yeah, maybe a little bit even. All right. Even more eccentric than Roy would be.
So they've got the pubs decorated with banners and photos, and everyone's talking about Gail. And oh my God, Rita is such a bully. I kind of love how she's still a mean cow after all these years about Mavis, because she's recording her video about the memories of Gail, and she just starts slagging off Mavis for crying about the budgie being dead. And I was like, even this woman's not even in the show. You haven't even talked to her. Well, you've been to Cartmel, but you nobody knows who Mavis is, and you're still slagging her off and making fun of her. It's just so hilarious.
Tuesday's episode was great for references, wasn't it? It was the Goodbye Gail episode before the wedding. Weirdly, there were a few notable absences from the wedding guests. Like, we didn't see Rita or Ken show up at the wedding on Wednesday for some reason. It's
because they don't film very much.
Yeah, of course. But this was an opportunity.
I'd rather have them talk than show up in the back of a scene.
Yeah, this was an opportunity to get a few memories out, and like you said, we had Harry at the budgie that got called out, and even Rita mentions Ina and Elsie at one point, doesn't she? Because she's talking about Gail and Eileen's feud and making the comparison between them. So yeah, lots of lovely references. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I wonder. I know AI and everything is coming on leaps and bounds all the time. I'm just wondering, will there be a point where Coronation Street can seriously make use of the technology to CG Rita and Ken in the back of a church?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, you know how they say the people don't like filming the like the church scenes and everything, which is why I think a lot of the times they don't have them because everyone hates it so much. But just imagine if you could just like CG everybody in.
Well, maybe that's what they can use the volume wall for. Just get a couple of chairs in the middle of the room and the volume wall just shows a packed church. Well, back in the day, they used to actually be able to pack a church.
I don't think they're going to do that because I think that the actors would
silly.
Not appreciate being replaced. But they wouldn't be replaced. Just be like, you don't have to turn up at the back of a scene. Anyway, Gail arrives with Jessie, and Audrey actually comes in, not far behind. But she's like, I'm not here to offer you my blessings. And then she says, David and Jessie are up to no good. Dum dum dum. We don't get to see anything of what is said, but. Nick tells David and Shona that Gail and Jessie have gone home.
I just thought this was a totally cowy move from Audrey.
Yeah.
It wasn't not in character, but I just, yeah.
She loves stirring.
Unnecessary. So, it's your daughter's second hen night. It's her leaving do. And you're going to come in making it all about you. And I know that if you think that she's making a huge mistake, I just think doing it in public the way that she did was really out of order.
So they go back to number 8, everyone's there, and Jesse's trying to explain himself to Gail and tells her about the laundered gangster money. And she says, oh, you laundered gangster money for our dream villa? And just the absurdity of that, obviously, I think it was supposed to be like, soaps.
I'm glad that there were no more secrets between them by the time that they left, I'll say that.
Well, David and Audrey turn up and Gail tells Audrey what's happened. And she's like really upset and saying, you're lying, you're supposed to look out for me. The 3 people we're supposed to trust. Everyone get out. And Jessie's like, what about the wedding? And she says, what wedding? Oh, so sad. So they all go back to the pub. And Jesse's like, Gail's having a bath. And she's locked the door behind her. Eileen comes over and she hears there might not be a wedding. And she sits in a booth with Jessie, and she's telling him that he needs to give Gail some time. She'll be fine in the end, and says, look, if you've been kicked out, why don't you sleep on the sofa for the night, and I'm sure everything will be fine tomorrow.
Did any of this manufactured drama between Jessie and Gail on the last night, did it bother you at all? No,
not really. It's just time filler, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's literally all that came across as.
What are you going to put in the show then? What are you going to... If everyone's just nice to each other and nobody makes any stupid comments or does dramatic nonsense,
I think they could have just made more of Gail leaving and having her reminisce about more things. Like she barely got a chance to sit down with Sally this week, did she? For one thing, I just... Yeah, I get that they've got to be cliffhangers and twists and will the wedding go ahead, because that's just soap tradition, but I would have just hoped that they might have broken it a little bit. Okay. I don't want to, as I say, I really enjoyed the week on the whole, but it felt just a bit hokey, and I don't think anybody went into the Christmas Day episode thinking, oh, what if they don't get married? They clearly were going to get married.
Well, we got told they were going to get married, and we got the photos of it, so...
I know. Oh, okay.
Oh, all right. So, Gail then also, she's looking at the photo albums, and don't forget, if she wasn't having a wobble, then the next thing wouldn't have happened, would it? Because she falls asleep, and then she sees somebody's at the dining room table when she wakes up. He's not at the dining room table, he's standing, isn't he? He's
at the table. He's at the table. He's got his back to the table. His back to Gail, and he's fiddling with something on the table. We see him dripping onto the carpet, and she's like, who are you? And he turns around, and it's Richard Hillman, back from the dead, covered in seaweed and dripping it. Well, pondweed.
And this sounds a bit like a prediction episode where I've gone completely off piece and started talking about nonsense about what I want to happen in the new year. But no, this really did happen. The ghost of Richard Hillman really did appear in Gail's living room, dripping everywhere, because he's just come out of the canal saying, hello, Gail.
So, should we get through the beginning of Wednesday's scene with Richard before we share our thoughts about this?
So, Wednesday, this is Christmas Day. This is that previous episode was only half an hour. This one's an hour long. And we'd been treated to 30 seconds of the ghost of Richard in that scene. And we were hoping and wondering whether there would be any more to it than just the 30 seconds that we got on the Tuesday. But luckily we did. We got quite an extended scene, didn't we? So he starts singing Blue Christmas, instead of having a musical Christmas montage, we had...
This is the first year, probably in ages, that Corrie hasn't started with a little bit of music in the background and everybody's Christmas unwrapping of presents or whatever going on screen. But yeah, he still managed to get a little bit of music in.
Yeah, we had a bit of diegetic music, didn't we, instead of non-diegetic montage. So he's singing and he moves closer and sits down next to her and he picks up one of the wedding albums, which is Jessie. So all of the husbands have an album each, I suppose. And he opens Jessie's, there's nothing in there, and he says blank. Just like his personality. He's got a pulse, but does it set yours racing? And then it cuts, and the next second they're dancing with the light under the light of a disco ball. And the dreams stepped up even further because Gail's imagining like lights and the sparkly curtain, and there are pillows with people's faces from the past on the sofa. There, I'm pretty sure there's an Elsie Tanner on there, and there's a Brian one, wasn't there? Yeah, Brian, and maybe a Michael on there. And there's also a pile of crates with French flags and garlic festooned on it, which is such a Gail thing. Like, her when she's thinking of France, that's what she conjures up in her mind, which is so hilarious. When she gets to France, she's going to be devastated that it's not just strings of garlic and people on bicycles with Breton tops on. So they're dancing, and he is telling her that nobody can match the buzz that she got from him. And he also criticises her parenting, doesn't he? And says, you indulged in the very worst of your kids and they never learned. Yeah, I mean, everything that he's saying here is clearly her mental anguish that she's feeling in the run-up to the wedding, kind of embodied as Richard Hillman. Yeah, that's right. I mean... Have I been a bad mum? Is Jessie the right choice for me? Miss Richard. Because honestly, up until she found out he was a killer, I think that she really did love him. Yeah, of course, yeah. So she's still dancing and she feels a bit, she's kind of overshadowed by him, really. And he's saying, they never learn because you're always there to catch them when they fall. And then he dips her down. And there's a bit as well where she says, you got a bit of seaweed and picks it off his ear, which was funny. And he also says that you're going to be crawling back in 6 months, and asks her to come back to me. He says, be the ginger to my Fred, just like the good old days. And she says, I'm not that woman anymore. And then she jerks away. Yeah, so Richard Hillman's return then. Reactions to that now that we're a few days on from it. I loved the fact that lots of people made the joke that when he appeared, he should have said, instead of saying hello Gail, he should have said, you should have stayed at the party, Gail, which would have been hilarious, but it also would have made him not technically a figment of her imagination. Yeah, Gail doesn't know that Richard said that. The only two people who knew that he said that are now dead. I do wonder whether that was ever like a possibility. And I wonder if they decided not to do it for that reason. And you go, oh damn, Gail doesn't know. But anyway, so this was a dream sequence. This wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a haunting. It wasn't actually Richard back from the dead. Because I'm sure there were a lot of people online that didn't watch Corrie that saw he was back that were very confused by this. Well, I mean, putting in all the background stuff and the lights and the disco was obviously trying to make it really, really clear that she's not having a vision. I really enjoyed all that extra stuff. I think they possibly could have pushed the bat out a little further. But yeah, it was like all the cushions. I want to know what's happening with those cushions now. I also want to know what the husband's cushions. They were really hard to see on the TV. We don't have a small TV. We don't have a massive TV. We've got a fairly normal sized television. But we couldn't really. You didn't even notice. No, I didn't even see. In the until pictures that they released, they're much more clear, aren't they? So yeah, I would like to see. I don't think that anybody released anything about the set design of that scene. No. There's been other interviews. Brian Capron's done interviews since. I don't think Helen said anything particularly. I mean, Brian's said, they invited me back. It had the right amount of dark humour.
A slight hint of menace, because they put on. He's done it. He did interviews. I think it must have just been a interview with Coronation Street people that was then sent out to the press. I don't think that press were invited to interview him.
Nobody knew this was going to happen.
No, well, no. The idea was that nobody knew, but it did get leaked, didn't it? And it was such a shame that it did, because Coronation Street, so to read what people are saying about it, went to real extreme measures to try and keep hidden the fact that he was coming back. They did the whole have him hidden under blankets as his car drove into the sets and everything. It was close set. Barely anybody was around for the filming of that. They really, really tried to keep it hidden. So I'm mad when things like this get leaked anyway. But I was even more mad the fact that they tried so desperately hard to keep it a secret. I'm really, really pleased to see, on our Facebook group, for example, some people genuinely didn't know that he was coming back. I just can't imagine what our reaction would have been if we were watching it and we hadn't known that it was happening. I mean, it was obviously just a rumour. It wasn't absolutely 100% confirmed, was it? So we were watching Tuesday's episode wondering when or if and when this was going to happen. It would have been such a letdown if it did turn out to have just been a malicious lie that had been spread by someone purporting to be a leaker. But yeah, it was a really nice idea to have him back, don't you think?
Oh, I thought it was brilliant. It's really cheesy and camp. But that's what Christmas is for, isn't it?
And it didn't need to happen. I think that they could have, Gail could have come to the conclusion, oh, actually, I do want to marry Jessie, without the whole Richard Hillman being back. But as a tribute to somebody who's been in the show 50 years, bringing in this character that was part of, what's arguably her biggest story to date. Yeah, why not?
Are we keying up here to see Anne Reid take William Roach away when
I've said for many years, get Anne Reid back in when it's Ken's final exit, whenever that happens. And I think that I think that Corrie had maybe sort of got prepared us for the silliness of it, maybe with the frequent hauntings that have been going on in Weatherfield recently.
I know, because
it was only been a few weeks ago since we saw Paul flossing away on the cobbles.
I genuinely don't know why. They knew they were going to have Richard Hillman come back. Why did they put Paul in as a ghost?
I think it was to get us accepting of the idea that, oh yes, Corrie does this. This is a thing that happens. I don't think even that return from Paul, it was nice, but it wasn't, it wasn't needed. It was lovely to see this character who we'd seen ravaged by MND and not being able to move or speak or anything, kind of up and about. But yeah, it wasn't needed. But I think that possibly if we hadn't seen him coming back, Rick Neelan coming back, Jeff coming back, and I'm sure that they weren't all part of the long game to prepare us for Brian Capron's return. I mean, certainly not Jeff. I think that our reaction to it might have been a bit different if we hadn't been prepared for it.
I do like the idea that once a character dies on Coronation Street, it may not be the last time you ever see them. Because there's quite a few people that have died on Corrie that I'd like to come back.
It's just funny that we had the bonus, the Patreon episode just last month, literally talking about posthumous appearances, and since then we've had a couple more. Yeah.
So there we go. That was Richard returning. Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
I wish it hadn't been spoiled. I think whoever is this mole is a scumbag.
I think there were lots of different scumbaggy moles in there. Well, I must the press department, everybody who's working so hard on that show, and especially to keep things secret. I feel so bad for them. They must be absolutely fuming when this comes out.
Like there are things that we know that are going to happen because we've been told them, and we would never spoil it because number one, it's you're privileged to be told these things, and number two, you just ruin it for everybody. What's the? I know that they've got to get their clicks and everything, but what a scummy way to make your job.
Yeah,
I think it's ruining people's hard work.
I think that. Would we have enjoyed it more if we hadn't known he was coming back?
Yes.
That's the thing.
Because when Paul came back, we were like, oh!
Yeah, you're right. We didn't know that
happen.
was happening, and I think that we'd have been sitting down watching the Christmas Eve episode of Corrie completely unprepared for this. I mean, I think the synopsis for it, which I've since read, said that Gail gets an unexpected visitor. So some people might have been wondering who could that be, but I don't think anybody would have said, "Oh, it's probably Richard Hillman they're going to have back." If that had been a huge surprise, absolutely amazing.
I kind of wish that they had done a kind of misdirection and sort of asked Brian Capron to, and some of the other ex-husbands who were still around, to record a message that they could have put on social media and gone, oh no, he just came in to record that along with the rest of them. But, you know, I think that they did as good a job as they could, but you can't not tell anybody.
No, and the problem with these leaks is they're, 95% plus chance to be true. There's been so many of them over the years, especially over the last 5 years, that have been absolutely right.
The ones that don't come true, I do wonder if that was a plan that had to get scrapped.
Yeah, but I don't think there's many that don't come true. But yeah, it was good. I mean, I suppose on the flip side of it had been we got up early on Christmas Eve to watch it at 7:00. This is bizarre this week. Like, all the episodes, after all the drama of will they or will they not upload the Christmas Day episode at 7:00 in the morning, they just did for all of them this week, didn't they? It was very convenient to us.
There was a lot of miscommunication from ITV, which is completely unnecessary, about when the episodes would be shown. And I know it sounds petty and stupid, but it really, if you're gonna tell people there's a chance they might not be uploaded, especially at Christmas,
well, the wording,
people make their plans around television sometimes. That's just how it is. You want your fans to be doing this, and then you kind of fumble explaining exactly when you think the episode.
I can't remember when it was. Was it Sunday night that they put out a schedule of here's when Corrie's on this week, and the actual wording of the text was like, most episodes will be available at 7:00 on ITVX.
There was so much misinformation.
They all were. It just made me wonder, were they deciding and umming and erring about whether to upload? It could have been the Christmas Eve episode or the Christmas Day episode. Will we do this early or not? Until the last minute.
First of all, everyone got told they weren't going to be uploaded early. Then earlier in the week, the press got told they were going to be uploaded early. And then ITV Help said they weren't going to be uploaded early. And then ITV Corrie said most episodes will be available. So they just made it so complicated and confusing and irritatingly silly. I don't know why. But if we had not... If we hadn't known,
we wouldn't have got up early at 7:00 to have watched it on Christmas Eve if we hadn't known, if we hadn't suspected that that Richard Hillman would be in it.
We wouldn't have watched it. We wouldn't have got up earlier. We would have gone onto Twitter at like 9:00 or 10:00 or whenever, seen that Richard Hillman was back, because people were just tweeting Richard Hillman's back in the show,
which is exactly what we said would happen. When they had the early uploads, we said people won't be able to stop themselves.
There was a very short grace period where people were trying to be respectful of spoilers, but like I said before, what is the benefit of the individual person to keep it a secret and wait until everybody's seen it?
Because especially if you're excited about something, you might want to post about it.
Yeah, this is what it stifles conversation, and it makes people. It's just created bad feeling, because if you haven't seen the episode, you're just annoyed at the person, and the person is like got no way of knowing whether you've watched it or not. No. It's just a sad reality of.
Yeah, so I was really angry that it got leaked, but I think I would have been more angry if it hadn't got leaked and I would have seen it on Twitter by somebody posting it. I would have been absolutely fuming then.
Yeah.
So as it was, we went into the episode. I was really excited, but I was left at the end of Tuesday's episode, like you said, thinking, "Oh, is that it?" Because it was brilliant. I loved how they had him dripping wet, like. I suppose that's one thing. We were expecting to see him, but we didn't have really any idea, what he would say, and nobody would have. That was a really great touch, having him, canal fresh, as it were, and literally having him dance around with her on Wednesdays, utterly bizarre and definitely true to what a dream might be like.
Yeah, I know.
And Brian Capron was amazing.
Brian Capron is just great.
Yeah, he was in. He was a 5 minutes or so. He was in the show. Brilliant performance. He was darkly menacing. It was
just loved it.
Peculiar, but yeah, absolutely loved it. I think I probably would have loved it even more had I not been expecting it, because I was kind of building it up in my head. And I think, if I hadn't seen it coming, I would have...
you wouldn't have had any
I would have had no qualms,
yeah.
and I would have just absolutely loved it, whatever. And I think, so some of the dancing was a bit odd. I don't think that there were...
I thought it was a dream.
I know. There weren't any lines that made me think, oh, this is an absolutely epic line for the ages, and I was kind of half hoping for there to be something like that. But if I hadn't known about it, I would have just been like, this is brilliant. I'm excited that he's come back, but I would have been more excited if I hadn't known. But really fun idea, and it certainly opens the floodgates for more of this, which I think some people are nervous about. But it is nice to be able to see actors again once they're passed on. But I totally get people who say that's not what Corrie is, that's not what Soaps is, and I can't say I completely disagree with them. But in my head, I've just kind of made peace with it and think, well, it is now, and it is kind of nice to see them again. So there's worse things that could become more of a norm. Not that it's a norm. It's not like they're doing it every 5 minutes, but
really, they are at the moment.
They are at the moment doing it every 5 minutes.
I know. People say it's a cop out, but everyone knows that you dream of people all the time. Like you'll dream about people, and especially if somebody's died, you do dream about them after they've gone. And I don't really mind it. It's just a creative way of telling a story, and it still is realistic to me because, like I said, I dream about people.
Yeah, I still think my favourite Corrie dream was the Yasmin's one in prison, where the prison guards and everyone was Jeff. That was really cleverly done. But this was still a lot of fun.
They're always really creative as well with the way they do the dreams. They're always really obviously dreams.
Yeah.
Apart from, I'm still not convinced Paul wasn't a ghost. But anyway,
is that the one? I just wonder, I can kind of imagine all the Corrie dead characters just hanging out in the afterlife saying, I went down and did a bit of haunting the other day. I didn't know you could do that. I've been just sitting there. I didn't know you could go back down and enter people's dreams. Yeah, maybe Paul and Richard are best pals in the Corrie afterlife and he's been telling them how to do it.
I mean, when we did our top 5 characters returning after death for Patreon, please join Patreon. Patreon.com/Conversation Street. We never went through and said ghost or vision or dream.
I don't think any of them are actually ghosts.
Yeah, I think Paul was a ghost, and I also think that Vera was a ghost.
Anyway, so this stuff that Gail, that Richard was saying, then, do you think that was supposed to be a manifestation of Gail's thoughts? Because that was the other thing. When I heard that he was coming back, it was is he going to say things to Gail that Gail shouldn't know or shouldn't be feeling?
He never did.
I think Gail clearly had been having doubts about it, which was all brought on by this whole money drama. Well, and so she's been thinking, what would Richard say? This was in no way Richard Hillman actually coming back and delivering a message from beyond the grave.
But I did like the way, it was very, he came in and he took charge and everything was glitzy and glamorous, which is kind of how it was to be married to him, because he promised her all these riches, and he was a businessman, so important, unlike anyone she'd ever really known before. Certainly nobody that she, had dated, and he was, razzle dazzle and amazing, and then he's also sort of slowly undermining that with all the criticism he gives her in this, all these sort of thoughts that have been in the back of her head about how she might have failed in her life.
Yeah.
And then but it's good that she was the one who's kind of making this declaration, I'm not that woman anymore, which is a really powerful statement, because it rejected everything he'd said about not just him and her together, but what she'd done wrong with her kids. And it kind of is a bit like the ghost of Christmas past turning up to remind Gail about her failures, and then she kind of makes up for it like Scrooge for the rest of the day, going to all of her children and having a heart-to-heart and telling them that they're her favourites, and kind of making peace with everybody before she leaves. So I thought that was really nice. It was very Christmassy. I think that maybe the tradition's coming back a bit more now, but it'd been lost for quite a long time. But in this country, there was always a tradition of ghost stories at Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's why Christmas, like a Christmas Carol, even exists, because that's what you would do.
Christmas
you would tell
is a time for spooky stories.
Yeah, it's kind of been taken over by Halloween.
The other last point I think I want to make about this comeback is that Corrie has killed off quite a lot of classic characters that you might want to come back. And I don't think out of the characters that are still alive, I mean, there are definitely some, but there aren't that many, like, huge names from the golden era who technically could come back alive on Coronation Street now. Right. Because, you know, Alma's not going to come back because she's dead. But she could now.
Yeah,
and you could say that to a lot of...
Rita.
Yeah, I mean... You got some actors who are still in the biz, like people have been saying, bring back Curly, and he could come back. Clearly,
well, he's not dead.
He's not dead. You know, Raquel could technically come back, but she's not going to, is she? So this does kind of open it makes it a bit more possible that we might see a few more of these favourite faces again. But it is only for a fleeting moment, isn't it? I mean, you got on EastEnders was it on Christmas Eve as well? You had a returning character, someone who's not been on the show for, was it 20 years or so? And this was I can't remember what the character's name is, but I recognised him from EastEnders. You know.
Oh, is it that beardy one?
Yeah, beardy guy turned up in EastEnders, and I was like, oh, they're bringing him back. And yeah, I don't think, it doesn't feel like Corrie has got as big a bank of classics who technically could come back and live on the street as EastEnders, so maybe this is the next best thing.
Also, don't forget, you know, Rick Neelan whispering into Kelly's ear. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. But again,
that's a more extended appearance. You said it would only be fleeting, but that was a bit.
Well, that was over a couple of scenes.
Yeah,
but
well, all right.
Yeah, but you've got characters. You know, you've got Cindy Beale coming back into EastEnders as being a big name long term. No, she's been back in it for years, hasn't she?
I don't know. Yes. I don't bloody watch it. I don't care. I'm just we got told off doing spoilers for EastEnders once before.
No, she has been in EastEnders for a few years now.
You said coming back.
No, the fact that she came back into EastEnders.
I know, but the tense you used was confusing.
She got banged on the head on Christmas Day, didn't she? Anyway, so I thought it was a really, really nice move, a good celebration of one of her best storylines. And people have been very critical of Gail's exit, saying, you know, it's rushed, Gail's not appeared so much in it. Oh, it's just a wedding, they're not doing anything special. But this was one way that they could make it special. They didn't need to do this, but the fact that they did, I'm kind of championing and saying, well, great, not everybody's going to have something like this on their final exit, and maybe Gail's final story wasn't as bombastic or dramatic or character driven as you might like, but at least they've had a go at something, and bringing back this really, really classic villain that some people will say is Corrie's greatest ever bad guy to walk the cobbles.
So, Gail jerks awake and she stumbles outside and she sees Eileen outside her front door, and she calls Jesse on her phone, and then Eileen picks his phone out of his jacket pocket, and Gail is like, oh my goodness, she's done it again. But then it's apparent that he was just staying in a spare room, because Jesse opens the window and they start declaring their love for one another, and Eileen is saying it's just like West Side Story with wrinkles.
I liked how Eileen played along with it just for a little bit.
Yeah.
The fact that they still were able to give a little bit of screen time to this Gail and Eileen feud, even on the last day.
I just love the way that Eileen is clearly trying to be a good person and bury the hatchet, but she just really still hates Gail. And she can't stop kind of getting a few digs in when she gets the chance. So,
well, even the video that we see later, when they're watching it during the ceremony, Eileen's is the only one that we see, isn't it? And she gives this lovely heartfelt speech. When they were practicing it the day before, she was struggling to come up with anything nice, but then for the actual video she says this lovely thing, and then there's a beat and it's like, did that sound like I meant it? Which in real life would be quite a cruel thing to put in. But I don't know, I think Gail kind of understands that there is a feud going on, and maybe to have had Eileen just be thoroughly nice would have come across as a bit weird. I think it was just a nice little joke that Eileen put into it, and I think that she has sent Gail off with like a...
Well, I wish you luck.
Yeah.
Like, I wish you no ill will.
We haven't always seen eye to eye, but
there's no need to be horrible now, you're going, see you later.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they had a satisfactory ending, those two.
There's quite a few people I'd be happy to wave off to France to go and live away from me. Right, so they have a funny scene in the Platts where they count down from birthday to Christmas, because David's opening his birthday gifts, and then they do a countdown, and then it's Christmas and everyone gets to open.
Well, they've got it on a little sign, haven't they? Like every year David has to get into it. It's my birthday as well, you know, and it sometimes gets a little bit tired, but I quite like the having the sign that they were flicking round and saying, right, it's not David's birthday time nor it's Christmas.
I think David's entire personality is based around the fact that his birthday is on Christmas Day, because that is why he spent his life trying to get attention and acting out and being sarcastic and grumpy.
He only gets one day to celebrate a year and everyone else gets two.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it you said last week? Something like, it's not easy celebrating your birthday with the Messiah.
Yeah.
They made a really good
he's funny.
Good job of it this year.
So he is puzzled when he opens his gifts, and he gets vodka and he also gets a power bank, and he was expecting to get aftershave, because he found the present that Shona had bought when she'd gone away and was expecting to open it, because I think he'd seen Love Actually.
It was a bit of an odd present, a power bank, wasn't it?
What did I get you?
What did you get? You got me a little charger from a Joy-Con.
What an odd present.
And she didn't even wrap it, did she? Was it just like a little power bank in a sock? Like she'd found it at the back of a drawer somewhere. It's like, oh, I'll rewrap that for David. And they
can't all be winners.
No.
Well, anyway, Adam comes in to deliver some presents, and Shona is like, oh, you smell nice. And David is like, what? He thinks that Shona has given Adam this aftershave.
I liked the little thing that they had between, was it Max and Bethany there, where Bethany's, Shona says something about his signature scent, that's it. And Max says, what, you got a signature scent? And Bethany says, so do you, and kind of wafts in front of her nose. I thought that was a really fun little sistery, brotherly kind of thing going on there. Well, cousin, whatever.
Well, they never really... Isn't he her uncle?
I don't even know.
David is... Oh, Max.
Yeah, it was Max, wasn't it?
Who cares?
Cousinly thing.
Can they get married is all that anyone cares about.
I just want to take the time now to celebrate the fact that Carter J is doing a bang-on job as young Harry this week. Mm-hmm. We barely got to see him a couple of weeks ago when he found that £50. Even now, we've only had a few scenes with him. We got a little... I think he's had his biggest episode on... Yeah. We had his biggest episode on Friday, wasn't it? Where he'd put this awful card together.
I mean, the character, not the actor, obviously.
Every time they get a child to draw something on Coronation Street, they seem to make it age inappropriate. And I know that Carter, who plays Harry, is a little bit older than Harry, but I think that he would be able to draw a better card than that.
Who does the pictures?
I don't know, but it clearly wasn't him. Imagine how bad we'd feel
if it turned out it was the children. But maybe they did ask him, the actor, and he drew it worse than he would have done because he couldn't remember how bad he was at drawing when he was 2 years younger. I don't know.
Adam's birthday card, I was saying to you when we were watching it. Well, I can't remember what it said, but it looked like
there was a little...
Get well soon, that's it. And the double O's just looked like a pair of boobs.
It did look like it was covered in boobs.
Stick man with a boob by the side of his face.
Clusters of boobs all over the place.
But anyway, I think that he's doing a really, really great job as Harry, and he's a totally different kind of character as the old Harry was. But I never have any problem with young kids being recast if I think that a recast is needed, but he seemed like a really, really bright spark, and I hope that they've got some good stuff coming up for him. I don't know whether they will, but he
definitely strikes me as a cheeky monkey.
He does, and he's not just kind of replacement while we've got someone who can probably act a bit better, like they sometimes will do with the young children. This kid, he has been in the we were talking about him last week actually, and you said, was he a monkey in the new Robbie Williams film? And he literally was. He's played young Robbie Williams in the new film, so he's quite a big deal. The fact that Coronation Street's managed to get hold of him, and in the same way as Jack P. Shepherd went through his teenage years. He was a constant presence on the show, and I'm starting to wonder, are we going to get that for Harry? Because they've got a really, really decent actor playing him. He's completely charming. I have got utter nothing but praise for the little that we've seen of new Harry so far, and I kind of wish that he was David's kid, so that he would be more at the heart of the Platt stuff. But
he might be. You never know what.
You never know what's going to happen.
I mean, as far as him being more in focus rather than him turning out to be secretly David's kid.
But yeah, I think he's absolutely amazing so far. So good catch, Corrie casting department.
Yeah, well done.
Anyway, so back to the Platt Christmas present drama.
Audrey shows up even though she's not been invited, Maria tells her that Gail does not want her there, and she closes the door on her face, and so Audrey has to go off all upset. Then we get to see the bistro being set up, just to warn you that the Battersbys are lurking around.
Yeah, I've kind of taken out all the Battersby drama from this one. Yeah.
But Gail and Sarah are in the back, and this was a really lovely scene where Gail is talking to Sarah and telling her, you're the only daughter. People look to you, but you've got to look after yourself and choose happiness. You've always been my favourite. And as soon as she said that, I knew. I was like, she's going to tell all of them they're her favourites, because there's no way Sarah's her favourite.
Yeah, it was. I really appreciated the fact that each of the children got their own sort of individual goodbye scene. Although Nick's was a little bit thrown in at the end. I was kind of waiting for the Nick one to come in.
And it wasn't private.
No, that's the thing. It was as Gail was getting into the car, she sees him. I was saying to you yesterday, like, did they do it in the right order? Did they give enough time to everybody? And I think they did. I think that building up to Nick and leaving him as the final one was right, because I think, for whatever Gail says about who her favourite is, yeah, there's definitely an element of that to it. And I think Nick is her favourite and he's the golden boy. I do wish that he'd maybe had just a single scene alone with Gail. The problem is, like, Gail is so well known for her relationship with David. I think that those two have got the most developed relationship and the most famous relationship. And the fact that it was David delivering the best man speech eventually was absolutely right. But yeah, Gail and Nick. Nick is probably the most hassle-free of the three children, and that certainly helps. But like you said, the fact that it was the whole firstborn child thing.
Whenever something goes wrong with Nick, it's never Gail's problem, whereas the other two, it kind of is.
That's why she's left when he's in the middle of all this drama with Toya and Leandra. You'll be able to solve it. It'll be okay.
Just text me, let me know what happens.
Yeah, so I thought it was quite a nice idea for her to go through telling them that they were all their favourite. But are they going to be comparing notes about this later? And saying,
I think they would find it funny.
Well, I think they would.
I think that they know that they were all told.
Well, the fact that when Gail later tells David, and he says, "You've always been my favourite," David's reaction is to go, "Yeah, right." I thought that was a brilliant reaction to David. Like, he knows that's not true. Although he's certainly the, as I say, the kid that has got the most attention. Yeah.
Right. So
over the years,
they have a hug to Sarah and Gail, but then Audrey comes in and they swap. Sarah leaves and Audrey sits down, and she kind of confesses to being afraid. And she says, "You're the best of my heart, Gail. You always have been."
No, the beat of my heart, she says.
Oh, the beat of my heart, yeah. And Gail says, "Look, I don't have to go." And Audrey says, "Look, you deserve happiness. You deserve Jesse." And they leave together. And she's, Audrey's made peace with it. Gail's finally got an acceptance from her mum about what's going to happen moving forwards. Because, Gail, she hasn't... I think she maybe alluded to it, but... Audrey does only have one child now. She lost her other child, last year, and it's really hard for her to now lose another. And I think it's not weird that she's upset about it. Maybe she shouldn't have said anything.
It's not. Yeah, she shouldn't have said anything. And I just think that the fact that she was
a family that always say everything.
Yeah, I just think the fact that she was able to make peace with it and then turn around and support Gail so quickly as well, it didn't quite sit right with me. I think she knew that
she was being an arse, and I think they both knew that Audrey was making a last-ditch attempt, and I don't think she really expected it to be successful. I don't know. I'm giving everyone a pass.
What did you think about the fact that Gail and Maria were telling Audrey she's not welcome? Because I think that was,
being a bit stinky.
That was being a bit stinky on Gail's part. I would have thought that it would have been a pretty open invitation, and if she ever wanted to come crawling back, then of course you're welcome.
Honestly though, I think if she hadn't been rejected, Audrey wouldn't have gotten over herself. I think that she needed a kick up the arse. And I think she realised that she was going to lose Gail either way. She's either going to lose her forever because she's never going to speak to her again, or she's going to lose her to France and she's going to still be able to talk to her. And I think she realised in that moment when she's being kicked out, actually, I've got more to lose than I thought by doing this. I'm not going to win here. I've got to get over myself. So yeah, it makes sense narratively that this is why it happened. You can quibble about whether it made sense for the characters. I think that it was fine because like I said before, I think Audrey's a flighty miss. So then we cut, and we're in the middle of the wedding, basically. And Jessie and Gail are at the altar together. We've got Blue Merrick returning as the...
Forget Richard Hillman.
We had 2 returns. And
I know that this doesn't mean...
wasn't spoiled.
I know that this doesn't mean a lot to everybody, but when we went into the bistro on Wednesday's episode and we saw that they'd got Blue Merritt back as in the role of Jenny Reese as registrar, that almost knocked out Richard Hillman in my list of
it was good to see her back.
Exciting Christmas return. She's not been in it since, I think it was Emma and Curtis's wedding. Maybe she only does Christmas weddings.
Maybe.
That's
Maybe
her
she's
thing.
like mainly free at Christmas. But
yeah, I was very happy to see her. We even DM'd her on Christmas Day, didn't we? And she got back to us. We said, "Hooray, you're back in Corrie." And she's like, "Yeah, I am. Follow me on this guy."
I've never done a Gail wedding before, so
she was happy to have been invited to a Gail wedding.
Hooray.
I was totally chuffed to see. And what did you think of the wedding setup in general? Like the bistro, Gail's dress, all of the kind of the decor, the atmosphere and ambience of it.
A glass at that love sign, I think.
No,
that's a joke, because that's what Leanne does. I thought it was really beautiful. I think it looked really nice. I wish it wasn't at the bistro. I'm glad that it was, because then we got to have the fight break out in the middle of it, which we wouldn't have done if we'd had it anywhere else. But I really wanted somewhere else. I'm fed up with bistro weddings.
I totally get people's criticisms of the fact that it was at the bistro. But like you said, I get that the drama with Nick and Toya and Leanne had to go on at the same time.
Well, it makes sense.
Although
also that
Gail seemed, quite unbothered by the fact that her son was being carted off by the police in the middle of it.
Yeah, I know.
That was a little bit jarring. So yeah, obviously somebody as iconic as Gail, I think, does deserve to have been married in a better place. Her Michael Rodwell wedding was done in Register Office, wasn't it? The hall that they usually go to. I can't remember whether she's had a church wedding or not. Hall? Yeah, that's it.
Look, at this point now, a bistro wedding is traditional for Coronation Street.
But it's a tradition they need to get out of, I'm going to say. What do you think of the dress?
I thought her dress was beautiful. I think it was very nice. It was, what was it? White. Yeah. White with a jacket. And then at the end, she threw another jacket over the top, which was like a really nice, furry, fluffy white one. She looked gorgeous.
She looked absolutely stunning on Wednesday's episode.
Beautiful hair, as usual.
I just loved, like, during the speeches, how happy and warm and she looked. Like, she was delivering the lines perfectly. And she there was no sign of any of the silly, batty doofus Gail that we'd seen and grown a little bit fed up of over the past few years. She was just absolutely brilliant. I loved the smile. It was so warm. Her speech at South, where she was talking about little Gail pottering through life, talking about being in the shadows of her glamorous mother and her glamorous friends, which was funny because then you got cut to Sally, like going, she's talking about me. She talks about being blessed and cursed and blessed again. It was just a really, really nicely written speech. All the speeches were. It was Jan McVerry who wrote Wednesday's episode, and I think it was a really solid choice picking her to do such a landmark episode of the show, and these speeches did not let me down one bit. I mean, it was lovely.
I really think that Corrie writers always rise to the occasion when they're being given a big task, aren't they? I mean, we have our criticisms with the day-to-day stuff, but the big stuff, I think, is done. Yeah,
they did not drop the ball in the slightest.
All week they were doing fantastic. Everybody was doing fantastic.
The speech did have the usual Corrie, and maybe it's other soaps that have this trope, I don't know, of characters in the congregation kind of piping up with everyone always interrupts a speech on Coronation Street, don't they? Like, she's talking about her friends with their little houses, and Debbie says, "Hey, get you with your villa." Like, shut up! This is. You're not allowed to interrupt my speech. But it just seems like whenever anybody does a speech in Coronation Street, you have to cut to someone else, when I don't think I've ever been in a speech in real life when people have done that. But hey, maybe I just don't go to enough speeches.
They're not
or I don't have as witty of friends as the Coronation Street characters.
But, you're saying speeches. These were actually supposed to be vows, which they did wind me up a bit that they were just speeches. And if I was the registrar, I would have said, "Can we just do vows, please?"
Yeah, so
don't
they're
need your
ragging
life
on Roy
history.
on Tuesday's episode
Well,
for
I
not
was
being
saying-
able to
what
do a
was
message
saying-
properly without making it sound like a historical documentary.
Yeah, I was saying that to Jessie. Like, we don't want your life story. Just say what you're going to do.
Well, even at the end of it, the registrar goes, "Lovely." Doesn't
Yeah.
she? Like, what a lovely story.
Okay,
Anyway,
cool.
should we marry you now?
Right, so they put the rings on. They get pronounced man and wife, and then Gail and Audrey have a make-up hug. And then David ruins everything, doesn't he?
Well, the story kind of takes a bit of a turn at this point, doesn't it? Because this was another one of my slight criticisms of the day. I would have preferred for it to have just stayed on the niceness of the wedding.
Oh, I didn't
and
mind
having all of this go on. I didn't mind it too much, but I preferred the wedding stuff.
Oh, I liked this because you get Vengeful David, and we haven't seen Vengeful David for a while, have we? He takes his birthday vodka over to Adam's flat, and his obviously suspecting him of cheating with Shona, and his plan is to get him drunk and make him confess. So they settle down for a drink, and Adam has to have whiskey, because of course he does. And so they have a toast.
Scottish, don't you know?
I didn't notice. So they have a toast.
Yeah, they toast to apron strings because finally David's are getting cut after all these years. He's like, here's to apron strings, G strings, no strings attached. And both of them are looking like they're getting slightly plastered, don't they?
Yes, that's right.
There's a twist.
People are wondering where David is because he's supposed to be the best man, like you said, and Shona's getting worried because she hears that he was last seen walking towards Adam's flat. But it turns out that even though David was drinking vodka, he'd actually replaced it with water.
Yeah.
So he was only pretending to be drunk. And then Adam catches on to this. But then David accuses Adam of having it off with Shona, and they take it out to the balcony for some reason.
I'm not really sure what David's
at all.
plan was here. Well, this was because that used to be Tina's flat back in the day, didn't it? So when she got pushed out the balcony, that in my mind, I just call it Tina's balcony because they use it so infrequently.
That was the isn't that not the builder's yard?
Yeah, that's what this was.
That used to be Tina's flat.
Yeah, the flat. That's
how is it? How is the builder's yard attached to a flat? I don't understand.
It just is. This is the flat that's round the corner, isn't it? It's the one that's opposite Roy's, and you go up it, and then it's got access to the balcony, which has also then
then they've also built on this big staircase.
I think the staircase there does muddy the waters a little bit because this was the one that was built for the fire earlier this year, wasn't it? And this is the staircase that Adam eventually takes a tumble down. Didn't actually exist 12 months ago
for a year, and already 2 people have fallen down it. I think it's a health hazard. So they head out to the balcony. Adam goes to have a swing at David. He's clearly trying to menace him, and then he misses and falls down the stairs. And Shona and Sarah are walking around looking for them. Hear the commotion, come running over, find Adam on the floor, blood's coming out of his ear, and they both pretty mad at David for having pushed him.
This was another case of the injury seems quite bad, but he was kind of happily skipping down the street by the end of the episode, or at least the next day, wasn't he?
So Shona's really mad, and Sarah calls an ambulance. They leave.
They leave Sarah to it.
Yeah, they go back to the bistro. People are frantic because David's not there yet. So,
well, I think the fact that they were just all flitting off from the wedding during the day, it was a bit flaky, really, wasn't it?
This is why you don't
Nick
have
was
it.
off the police station. David had gone to visit Adam. Sarah had caught up with him. I would be pretty narked off if I was Gail at the moment. It's like, can't you just at least stay with me for my last day in the country?
Well, this is why you don't have it at the bistro, because the people just play, I'm just nipping down the pub, I'm nipping home, I forgot to... When you hold it in the countryside, you're basically holding everyone hostage, aren't you, in a hotel? You've got to stay here, there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
The nearest shop is 4 miles. Right, so Nick decides to distract everybody by putting on his gift, which is the video compilation that for some reason Max made for him.
Well, anything that anybody ever wants videoing now, you got elite videographer Max there to save the day because nobody else knows how to point a camera and turn it on at somebody.
And every time you ask him to make a video, he's like, "Do you want animated cockroaches in it? Because that's my thing that I can do really well."
I thought the video turned out really nice, and the fact I liked how they were kind of cutting back and forth between characters, and they had the music in the background. It wasn't just one person's video, then another, then another.
Yeah, that's right. It was edited very well.
Nicely edited. Well done, Max,
took you hours,
or
Max.
whoever did it.
Right, so Kit shows up, where Adam is on the floor, and David's still like saying, "Oh, this is karma. This is your fault. You're messing around with other people's wives." So Kit knows that David thinks that Adam's done it. He knows it was him.
Yeah.
So Adam starts to wake up. Sarah's like, "Okay, you guys go back to the wedding, and I'll stay here." And then this is when they're walking along, and David's like, You were cheating with Adam, and she's like, "No, I wasn't." And he says, "Well, where's the aftershave then?" And she said, "I bought it for you. I just forgot where I hid it," which I think was one of the best lines of the episode.
Brain injury. But did we ever find out? I can't remember
really
whether that was true. Like,
I believe her?
She didn't secretly give it to Kit.
She clearly didn't give it to. No, it was Adam. She would have been Adam. She gave it to.
Why? Why would it have been Adam?
Because he's the one that smelled of it.
Yeah, but I thought the original plan was that she got aftershave for Kit. But then I
genuinely think that she bought it for...
Okay.
And I just think that they all went to the same shop, which is why Adam's got the same aftershave, because they all just went, "That looks like a good deal. I don't care, just buy that."
At the moment...
That's my headcanon. All of the Platt women bought the same aftershave.
At the moment, we're not really getting that much of a sense that Shona wants to reignite things with Kit, are we? I know that she went back to his hotel room at that one time, and then she got cold feet about it.
I think she realises it was
I think, the way things that have ended, sadly, between the two of them this week, it feels like soap logic that she is going to go back there again, especially with all the drama that's going to cause between Kit and his potential parenthood. I really hope not. I do not want to see any snifter of an affair between Shona and Kit, but I just got a horrible feeling that we might.
Well, he says, "You were at the hotel that night. Who did you sleep with?" And she freezes, and she says, "Okay, all right, I have to admit, I did sleep with somebody once, but it wasn't Adam."
This was a real week of revelations, wasn't it? I didn't expect that to come out on Christmas Day, did you?
No, I don't think that Shona expected that to come out on Christmas Day either. Right, so
the fact that she just came out with it.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of... In like maybe the past couple of years in Corrie, people have just said stuff, whereas usually I'd think they would, hold on to it for months.
And the fact that she said it was a mistake or it was only the once, like that's not enough to
what?
Make me forgive you for it. And I don't know whether she really thought that David would.
Well, she hasn't really got any way around it, does she? So she's just trying to mitigate the mistake. So they go back to Gail's house together. They have it out, and she tells him it was a mistake. It wasn't anyone you know. And she also has to admit that this is when she was hit by a car, and she didn't tell the police, although she kind of looks a bit like she's going to admit that she did tell the police, but she doesn't say that. She says, "I think our marriage is dead and I don't know what to do about it."
That's really sad. That was, came out and saying it as starkly as that. You didn't get the idea that the marriage was dead before this. I feel bad for David, but then I always have to think, now hang on a minute, he's kind of the one that brought this on himself, didn't he?
Did she mention about the stuff with...
I don't know whether
she
Clayton
does at some point.
Did that got brought
I don't know
up?
if it comes up later.
This is all, where it all stemmed from. David gaslighting her. You're right, she does mention it at some point this week.
She's right to be hurt.
She
They've
is.
both been pretty bad.
I suppose what you think about what was the worst crime, if you like, the sleeping with somebody else or gaslighting you into thinking that you've deleted emails by mistake. What's worse? People, mileage may vary, won't it? Some people will think different things, and I think that it's really tough. Like, I would say that the gaslighting is more forgivable. I mean, that's not something that can be used in court as evidence for divorce, can it? But
you don't need to go to court to get divorced.
No, or whatever.
You don't need a reason. You just say, "I don't like him anymore."
But the infidelity is enough to say, well, this marriage is over. But for some people it wouldn't be, especially in Coronation Street where they're bonking around all the time.
Bonking from bonk to bonk.
Which one do you think is worse?
I think I can't be bothered to talk about it.
They're both as bad as each other, Gemma says.
Yeah. Right, we just don't have time, Michael, to get into
sorry.
So Gail comes in the middle of this argument, Shona storms out, and then Gail gets to have a heart-to-heart with David, doesn't she? She's like, "Before I go, is there anything I can do?" And she says, "Look," he says, "No, it's just the usual stuff. Listen, if you repeat this, Gail, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to miss you. And then Gail tells him to be kind to Shona and himself, and tells him, you've got a big mouth, but you're a sensitive soul. Yeah. And then they hug.
This is the favourite line.
And she says, you've always been my favourite. And David's like, okay. So they go to the hospital. We go to the hospital to see Adam there with Sarah, and he's like, I don't need leaflets for being an alcoholic. That's a different character in my family. I'm fine. I'm going home. I want David in trouble. And Sarah's trying to stop him because she's like, look, it's just a funny soap prank at Christmas. Everyone always pushes everyone. If we had to stop and get arrested for assault every time somebody slapped somebody or pushed somebody down the stairs, we'd all be in prison.
It wasn't a push, though. It was a total accident.
Fault.
It was David's. I mean, David got
Adam's fault.
David got Adam drunk, but then people were getting each other drunk all the time at Christmas. Yes, he clearly had some kind of nefarious plan going on because he wasn't drunk himself. But did he just want Adam to confess that he'd slept with Shona?
Yes, of course he did.
That's all it was.
He wasn't... He also didn't get Adam drunk. Adam got himself drunk and didn't realise that David wasn't drinking. And then Adam menaced him and came at him to like have a go, to punch him, and missed him. Yeah. So really, I think Adam's forgotten what actually happened in that scene.
It was funny, they did mention... Adam, I think it was in today's episode, he's like, oh, I'm always being mistaken for the same person. Because it was around Christmas time a couple of years ago that he got clonked on the head by Faye Wendas, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
When she thought that was Ray, which is kind of funny that it always happens to him. And he was the one that fell over the railings in the supermarket.
I think somebody needs to check him out because it was in a cafe.
Do you think
a cafe?
Do you think Sam Robertson is like a bit of Tom Cruise and he's like, I'll do all my own stunts?
Well, the thing is, isn't this what happens in America with the footballers, and they get head injuries and then they go mad and kill everybody?
Is it all watch this space of 2025?
I
didn't see that in the previews from Kate Brooks.
Well, I think there's some serious concussion going on in some of these characters. Right, so the best man speech is David standing up, bigging up Jesse.
Oh, this was, again, lovely, lovely, lovely speech. This was so well written.
Jack P. Shepherd performed this really well. He gets himself very emotional, doesn't he, David? Saying
and it was one of those things that it's like, I think that was genuine emotion there. Yes, he is a brilliant actor.
When you're watching all of these characters in this episode crying about Gail, you're just thinking... And when they're saying goodbye to her and everything, you just know that they're saying goodbye to her in real life.
Jack and Helen have been on-screen mother and son for nearly 25 years now, haven't they? Like half of the time she's been in the show.
Imagine that.
And he knows that the Gail and David relationship is, one of the best parent-son relationships dynamics exactly that Corrie has and has had. So it was not a surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise to learn that was genuine emotion there. So I love the lines about she's been a doormat and I've wiped my feet on her more than most.
Well, she said she's not a doormat, she's an optimist.
She
sees the best in everyone. She gives everyone a second chance. And he says when she's happy, she lights up the room, and then his voice starts to crack. And he tells her she deserves a happy ever after, and he calls her mum.
You were saying he's going to call her mum, weren't you?
Call her mum. So
beautifully done.
Then we cut when the wedding's over. Gail's alone in the bistro, and she is watching the montage, and it was like watching one of these documentaries that ITV do, where they get the actor to sit and watch clips of themselves, and then we want to film your reactions. And she was like beaming at everything.
Yeah, I thought that the atmosphere in that scene was brilliant, because I had been a little bit disappointed that we'd only got to see Eileen's scene, but to have Gail sitting there on her own watching through them all and seeing her reaction. And again, I can totally buy that a lot of that was Helen's genuine reaction to seeing people like Sally Dinover saying goodbye to her after all this time.
A lot of them were in character, but you could tell the sentiment was real.
I saw a few people
maybe there were a few people in the cast that really hate her, and they were like, I can't believe we've got to pretend to be nice to Gail.
I saw a few people saying online, and I didn't consider this myself, but maybe it might have been nice if they'd have been able to have got some previous characters saying a goodbye message and a good luck message, a bit like because this is how they had at the end of in Neighbours at the end when it was feeling that it was going to end, and they had Mark Little and Natalie Imbruglia and some of the old cast members rocking up to say goodbye, and they totally could have done that. This could have been the way of getting a Trisha Hopkins cameo in, for example, and there could have been plenty of others, I think, that might have said goodbye to Gail, but it wasn't needed, and I thought it was lovely as it was, but now I wish that somebody hadn't put that idea into my head, because now I'm thinking, oh yeah, that would have been good, wouldn't it? But, we did get Richard Hillman back in and Blue Merrick, so I can't complain too much.
I know, I mean, what can we expect?
Audrey comes in and whisks her away in the end, doesn't she? She's like, oh, your plane's going to leave. I thought that when she was watching it in the bistro, it was night time because it was so dark in there, but turns out they just turned the lights off. No,
so she comes out. It can't have been a very long wedding if it's still daylight when she comes out, because it gets dark about 4:00. So she comes out, Audrey takes her, doesn't she, outside, and they pack her into the car, and this is when, before then, Gail gets her moment with Nick, telling her that he's her favourite. And she's like, well, everything's sorted. My work is done here. Okay, Gail.
That would have been a nice line had 2/3 of the family hadn't been having their own dramas of their own.
There's more drama because you've got David's marriage dissolving. Yeah. You've got Nick, his relationship.
He's literally just been in the police station.
Been hauled in for fraud. Yeah. And then you've also got Sarah Louise, who's moaning over the fact her daughter's just got engaged and she's worried about that. I'm just waiting for her to wrap her legs around somebody, to be honest with you, because that would be about par for the course. So,
good for Sarah.
I think she would probably go for Kit.
Sarah.
Why not everybody else does?
There was definitely, I'm sure that as part of 2024, there were thoughts that maybe it would be heading that way, especially after it was sort of definitely all over with Adam.
She makes a big fuss about telling Glenda that she's single on Friday's episode, which is always a signal that she's going to get herself in a romantic tryst, isn't she?
Kit comes into the end of Wednesday's episode, doesn't he? Kind of strutting down the street.
How's everything going? David is not very impressed because he still thinks something's going on, and it
but
looks like
Kit.
Kit does say something that makes David look a bit suspicious.
Well, he kind of. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was. But after Shona goes, he says something to David, which is, well, he says on Friday, doesn't he? I basically told him that it was us. He's like got no shame about it.
So yeah, David's now suspicious of Kit. So Gail goes off in the car. She tells Sally, it's not goodbye, it's au revoir. What's the difference? I'm not really sure. And then
au revoir gives you a sense that you might see them again, doesn't it? Goodbye doesn't.
But goodbye doesn't really mean anything, does it?
It doesn't mean anything, but at least au revoir means
goodbye. What does that mean?
I will see you again or something.
In the back of the taxi, she says she ruins her final words, which should have been this is just au revoir. And then she says, oh, I'm Mrs. Chadwick or something.
Well, she says, I can't remember
Are you
who
ready,
speaks
Mr.
first.
Chadwick?
Are you ready, Mr. Chadwick? Are you ready, Mrs. Chadwick? And for an episode that was so brilliantly written, I just thought that final line was totally not necessary.
And also, it did feel a bit like, it felt a bit like at the end of, like, what film was it? What horror movie was it? Not Triffids. What's the one... The People Snatchers, or whatever it was, where Donald, what's his name? Sutherland, spots something and points and like gasps in horror. And it felt like I was doing that, like, oh, she's changed her name again. It's going to be misery and chaos every time Gail changes her name. Something goes wrong.
They do mention it. I think it was the registrar says to them, here you go, Mrs. Chadwick, sign the register here. So it had been established in the episode.
Of course.
It was, I get how it's like, oh, they're supposed to be romantic. But yeah, I think we care as viewers more about her saying goodbye to everybody who's been with her on the show for years.
Jessie, honestly, Jessie wasn't even in any of this. You know, from the bit she sat down to watch the video, and then she went out and she saw, Jesse was just there going,
yeah, he was definitely,
you're not important.
It was a Gail story that Jesse happened to be tagged on, and I won't.
It's just like being a real groom in a real wedding, isn't it? Like, you're not important, just sit over in the corner.
I won't sort of turn the back on what I said about the fact that I think that they've done a really good job with Jesse in establishing him as a romantic interest for Gail in a very short amount of time and under very difficult circumstances behind the scene. I think it was, I bought his happiness. I thought that John did a great job in that role for the small amount of time, and indeed on the wedding episode. But this was a goodbye to Gail, and this was Gail saying goodbye to the street, so I would have preferred for her final lines to have been to the street rather than to the husband. But just a little minor quibble there.
Husband.
Right.
Anyway,
Friday's episode
goodbye Gail, that's the end of Gail.
Gone. She's out of here.
I think we're not going to say any more about Gail.
I don't think we need to. We did a whole 3-hour podcast about Gail just a few days ago.
If you are thinking we perhaps haven't dwelt enough on Gail, that is why, and we do talk about the exit very briefly in that episode as well, so please do go and listen to that if you're missing Gail already. So Friday's episode, David's missing for pretty much the whole episode here. And
I was starting to wonder whether we wouldn't see him at all.
He's gone to Freshco Wednesday evening and not come back, and she can't get hold of him. Nobody else seems to be bothered. Lily and Max think he's in bed, and Shona says, well, I think he's crashed at Nick's to try to not make them worry. And she tells Max that, don't worry, I'm not mad at you haven't done anything wrong. And then she gives him £20 to go to the shops. And this is a man that's supposed to be in charge of a baby, and he's being given pocket money to go and get some sweets. So she texts David again, and he's not answering. She finds Alia and Adam in the street and kind of like goes off on one about where is David, and thinks that maybe they've done something to him. And Adam's really got a bee in his bonnet about the fact that he had to be pushed. He was pushed down the stairs or fell down the stairs. And he tells Alia the whole family is nuts. And also Alia what did Alia say that was really funny? She's like, I go to London and what was it? I go to London and all this stuff happens. And it's like, yeah, because when you're around, everything's a bit dull. Nothing does seem to happen when you're here.
So, I just forgot there's something that we did. I know we said we wouldn't talk about Gail anymore, but I did want to mention the fact that this whole thing about Jack P. Shepherd supposedly asking for bits to have been rewritten on the Christmas Day episode. Because he said that I don't know whether he said it on the podcast or whether it was the press interview on the press day, but he said something along the lines of, there wasn't a scene at the end with all us family together, and I demanded that they wrote one, and they did. Here it is. He said, we don't have to be doing anything, we can just all be not speaking, just make sure we're all together in the Platts, for God's sakes, please, whenever she finally goes, don't just have someone random with her or whatever. So I don't know, obviously nobody knows viewers wise what the original script were, but apparently he was a little bit annoyed by the fact that the Platts together didn't get that final big send off. And I'm still left thinking, and I've seen other people online sort of posing this question as well since the episode has been on. I don't think we actually did get that scene, despite the fact that Jack said that they did one, because they put on the video. There's been a few kind of behind the scenesy videos this week on the ITV Corrie YouTube channel, and there was one of Let's Call a Rap on Gail, and she's in the Platts house number 8 and everyone's around her, and it felt like there was maybe a scene with all the Platts together there, but that didn't appear in the episode. And the closest we got to all the Platts together was the Let's Hurriedly Get Her Into the Car scene, which didn't feel like it was quite as big and goodbye all the Platts as it could have been,
I don't agree with that. I mean, when he says that the last scene was him, Gail and Shona, I think that maybe that scene was the one where, she walks in on them arguing, Shona storms off, and she tells David that he's her favourite. And then if they'd stopped after that would have been dreadful. But she does go out and, everyone's outside, and it is a really traditional Coronation Street exit where everyone's waving at you in the back of a cab.
But I think what Jack was saying and other people have said is it needed to be something a little bit less traditional in that sense.
There's only so much you can do when somebody's going to go in a taxi. I don't know what you can do.
Yeah, but I think that had they inserted a scene, and it could only have had to have been 30 seconds to a minute, just before Gail comes out to get into the taxi, if they'd have had the Platts together in the lounge and her doing a final goodbye speech for them, or like Jack said, just kind of sitting quietly, not talking to each other, that might have been good. They didn't even have, and I'm not complaining about this, but they didn't have a montage of Gail walking down the street and little clips from the show's past echoing in her head, did they? Which seems to be, a tradition for any big character that leaves. But yeah, it felt like that they just got pushed out eventually.
Well, she's gone and we're not to talk about her anymore.
No more Gail. Get over her.
Right, so Adam tells Alia that the whole Platt family is nuts. And then, who is it that turns up and is nuts again? I can't remember, but somebody else does.
Don't know.
Kit sees Shona in the cafe and she's saying that David's gone missing, and he's not very surprised to hear about it because he says, I pretty much told him that we slept together. And Shona's disgusted because he's being super smug about it and says, right, well then now I've got no reason to keep it quiet about the hit and run because you're going to get in trouble, and so will Daisy. And then he says, well, maybe you need to think about the fact that got to stay on my good side or else Harvey's men are going to come after you and your family. But she doesn't care, does she? Because she immediately goes and sees Daisy and tells Daisy to stay away from Kit because he's a scumbag. And Daisy's like, well, what's it got to do with you? And she's like, well, I slept with him.
Yeah, this kind of
you should know that
strays into the Daisy story territory a little bit, doesn't it? I think this was the case, so I didn't know really where to put the notes for this.
And
Daisy will become more pertinent later.
Daisy's left speechless by this, but Shona's characteristically blunt about it and just leaves her in the dust.
Another surprise revelation there.
Yeah, I like
Shona's just telling everybody. I think she's quite proud of it, to be honest.
But, yeah, well, I'm going to get with Kit. He's quite handsome. Right, so Shona goes home. David is still not there. And she's worried. She thinks she's going to have to report him missing. And Max says, look, he's fine. Don't worry about him. I'm sure he'll be fine. Then we find out where David is. And he has gone to an encampment with homeless people. You can always tell in fiction when that's happening because there's a barrel on fire.
Tents and a barrel on fire. So David's hanging out with the homeless,
as you might think. He's still wearing his wedding jacket.
Yeah.
And it's raining as well, and he's just kind of
utterly
like wandering
tragic
around looking sad and dirty.
And as I was watching it, I couldn't not think about the fact that is very, very clearly the exact same street that Joel used to live in. So ever since this guy's got murdered there, obviously the standard of the neighbourhood has taken a bit of a nosedive, and now it's just full of the destitute. But anyway, what do you think is coming up next for David? Is he going to be biding his time, plotting revenge on Shona? Because Gail was right when she said that he's sensitive, and sometimes he does just need to lick his wounds and get over it. But this is a huge thing to get over. Yeah. But he has abandoned his family for this. Yes, his wife has said, I cheated on you, but you can't just run away and hide when you got your 10-year-old daughter or however old she's supposed to be, and Max kind of wondering where he is.
You're going to catch your death.
He's going to catch his death, exactly.
I'm not worried so much about David as I am what Harvey and what's his name?
Damon
are going to do.
Well, yeah,
because once the floodgates get opened, it's clear that David's going to have a target on his back here, and Kit's going to be instigating it because David's going to find out that Shona slept with Kit, and then he's going to try and make Kit's life miserable, and it won't work because Kit is oblivious and really doesn't care. He's not worried about his social standing, is he?
No.
He just cares about whether he's a good police officer or not. And he's going to get maybe in trouble about the Daisy thing. I'm not sure, but he will ruin David's life if David comes at him, and I don't think that David realises what an adversary Kit really is.
Yeah, he's faced plenty of adversary in the past, hasn't he?
What, David?
David has, yeah. But he's had a few years off of it. Maybe he's forgotten what it's like. Have you seen the rumours, not even rumours, the theory online that Kit is related to Callum because they kind of look a bit similar in the face, and that could all come...
No, but I have heard people saying other things about people being related to other people, which I won't say. But
I don't know whether I've heard anything else. I don't think that's actually what's going to happen. I think people have literally just said that.
If Kit comes in and he's secretly related to somebody else when he was already secretly related to Paul to the Winter Browns, we need to stop this immediately because then you're making a giant spider's web of everybody being related to everybody, even more so than usual, because Kit's already in that family. He doesn't need any more secret families. As it is, Daisy is going to possibly end up having the child who is a cousin to all of Gemma's
clan
quads. Can you imagine Daisy sitting in that house? I can't even imagine her deigning to put her bum on the sofa, let alone mucking in with anything.
I'm just feeling a little bit trepidatious about this story, because in a way I'm really chuffed that David and Shona have still got their big story, but on the other hand I'm seriously worried that David and Shona aren't going to make it through to the end of this, and I really, really want them to be able to work it out, because I love them as a couple.
Well, tough.
But we will see. I
really do want them. Yeah, I don't want them to break up, but I'm not sure.
But I think that Corrie know that they've got something good with those two, and Team Platt is an on-set brand, isn't it? Is an institution, and I just fear that Shona might be cast adrift if she doesn't stay with David. But I guess
it's like being a member of the royal family, isn't it? If you're the woman and you get divorced out of it, you're in the shadows.
Yeah. Shona's just going to become a Fergie, isn't she?
Oh no.
Right. That's all we got to say. Well, there's plenty more we probably could say about this story, but like we're saying, we've got to go out. We're supposed to be visiting my dad. So we better whiz on to the next story, which is another highlight of the week for me, the Revenge of the Sis story. And this was clearly building up to something quite big, but I'm really chuffed that it did take...
This was fantastic again.
Honestly, billing on the Christmas Day episode.
This week was fabulous.
So Nick's back from holiday. He's been away with Sam to Tenerife.
I can't believe he went to Tenerife with that stupid kid. I would have just cancelled it.
But what?
There are no stars in Tenerife. Everyone knows this.
He's told by Amy that Leanne's in the back trying to figure out this problem with the accounts, and he's like, well, what's going on here? I can't believe lots happened since this, hasn't it?
I know.
So he's looking at this wine invoice. Really fast. We found out last week that there was supposedly something dodgy going on with the wine invoices, but it's clearly Leanne setting things up to look bad for Toya. So it's the invoice from the wine supplier is correct, but it's been put into the computer with £200 more in.
Now I can follow this. I can follow this better than money laundering. I don't understand what you're talking about.
Leanne's kind of playing along with this, going, oh yeah, that's really strange, isn't it? Leanne's been just so funny this week.
I love her. She's like, Jane Danson is playing it so well. Like, she's just acting on the edge of Leanne bad acting. Like, Leanne's like not completely convincing about that she's telling the truth here, which is really, really hard to do when you're an actor. I think it's really hard. You guys can see when you watch other people doing it. Like, when an actor has to act a character acting, it can get really bad. But she's like, just plausible enough, like, oh, what could that be? Where's it going? TLH. TLH.
What could that be?
That sounds familiar, but I don't really know what that could be.
I think we mentioned it on the podcast.
If it was TLB, I would remember, because that was toy. But she's not. I wonder if Nick will put it together now, or if he's too stupid.
She's really made it a bit of a trap for herself, like we said before about. The phone calls and the texts, which do eventually catch up with her, or at least to Nick by the end of the week. I
know you keep saying like she's not done a bad job, and she didn't think things through, but I genuinely think she did. She at the moment she was doing it, she just didn't care. Like, she knew there were going to be consequences, and she did not care at all.
Well, there's been quite a few looks that she's given over the past few weeks of like, ooh, have I gone too far here?
But this is Leanne. I think she does this all the time. Like, she'll do something rash and then regret it, but she never learns. And like, that's part of the kind of joy of watching the character, because you know there's going to be a reckoning, and she is going to really think, why did I do that? I can't believe I did that. I'm really sorry. I wish I hadn't done it. But she won't ever.
Makes me wonder how long they're going to stick with this new style Leanne, because Tracy made the comment the other week about, oh, you're more evil than I am, and I would be so thrilled if they did give Leanne a bit of a boost and made her more like this, because Tracy has definitely been diluted over the years, and there isn't anybody quite like that. And when Leanne came into it, she was a bit, she was fun, but she was also a bit nasty as well.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. Like, remember, I used to call her Saint Leanne, because she turned in I think it was when she started dating Cal, but maybe it was before then. Like, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. She acted like she was so high and mighty and she'd never done anything wrong in her life. But this is the Leanne that we want. This is the Leanne that's a proper Battersby, you know?
Yeah, and the script is making it, I think they're kind of laying it on thick, aren't they? That you're a Battersby, you're a fighter.
Yeah, they
and
definitely...
It
you
feels
can't
ever
avoid...
so slightly clunky to me, this. It's a bit of an abrupt personality change for Leanne, but it's almost... I can buy that there's a reawakening of her dormant former self in here. Because if you were to watch, you know, even on the classics at the moment where she's been going out with Danny behind Jamie's back, the kind of behaviour that we're seeing, and she's just about to get him involved in getting Mike to change his will so that she can benefit from it.
She's evil.
Yeah, and yes, she has grown and matured, and not everybody does regress, but I don't really have a problem with that. What I've got a little bit of a problem with is that it seems like we're the only people who seem to be championing Leanne in this. If you look online, and so it must mean that a good proportion of our listeners are like saying, oh, we hate Leanne as well. But yeah, it seems like everybody hates her.
Well, people don't like instigators, and there's also lots of people who are like very, very hardened fans of one particular character, and if somebody's mean to that character, they just get really upset.
There's also a lot of it depends on...
the only reason you like the character you like, or the couple that you like, is because they've gone through something together, and so you have to have them go through something to get to the other side of it. They'd just be boring and they wouldn't be on the show if nothing happened.
Yeah. And I've got no problem with people, hating Leanne and shipping Nick and Toyah. I'm starting to not mind Nick and Toyah. It's taken me a long time to get used to the fact. But I don't mind them too much together. I think one of the things I'm enjoying most about this story is I'm completely on both sides. I just loving whoever's causing the most drama of the moment. I don't think I've got my flag in team either of them. I just love the fact that there's
chaos.
Drama and chaos in it.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're arguing.
Leanne has been a total cow with what she's doing, and setting up her sister for fraud is huge. When people complained, probably rightly so, about the fact that the secret word that she used for the account was Rose... 2001 or whatever. That was a hideous thing to do.
Really horrible.
But you're supposed to... She's not a villain.
She's getting her own back.
She's getting revenge. And I think that Toyah crossed the line 100%.
When you imagine somebody wronging you, and I'm sure everyone has had somebody do something like backstabby to them at some point, just imagine how delicious... When you contemplate what you could do to ruin their lives and how delicious it would be. This is what Leanne is doing in real life.
This is why I always have to stay on my best behaviour around Gemma.
But it's really, really beyond hurtful. Like, just
it totally is. But I'm just like, it's fictional. But this is. It's juicy.
Just imagine the rush that she got when she did that. How like the kind of like eye blackening rush and her blood to her head when she was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make the password a dead baby. What a bitch.
Yeah, it's proper so bitch.
And she's also...
Is it un-PC to be kind of loving that kind of character?
You're so bitch. And Leanne is great at doing it. So good.
It also, I think your mileage may vary depending on how sympathetic you are towards what Leanne went through with the Institute, because again, I'm seeing loads of people saying she went along with this stupid Institute. Toyah makes the point in today's episode that when I had cancer, you kind of distanced yourself with love or whatever it was that she said.
Yeah.
And that was really mean. But I'm buying that it wasn't her fault that she was brainwashed by the Institute. I know that it was a bit silly, but I think that to me that's a good enough excuse. And if you are not on the same page as me with that, that's absolutely fine.
It's just fun to watch. It's not bothering me at all.
There's nobody that is 100% at fault, and there is certainly nobody that's 100% innocent here. And the fact that these two legacy characters, after 25 years, are still, well, even nearly 30 years, are still locking horns, but that strong sisterly bond is still there, which we got to see a little bit of, little twinkling of in the police cell today. It's just absolutely brilliant viewing for me.
Well, this is why I say soaps are so unique and really special, because these three characters have like 20 plus years of history with each other, and so watching them feuding, Nick, Toyah and Leanne together, and they're all completely in character as well, which I really like. I know I don't think that people are right if they're saying that this is not what Leanne would be like, because she was vindictive. She's been vindictive for a long time. and in the past she has been as well. And so seeing them all three acting completely in character and basing their actions on years and years and years of shared history, and the tension between them because of that is just incredible to watch. And we've criticised Corrie in the past when they've made decisions to do storylines or have characters, and it feels like anyone could have done this. You could have had anyone play this storyline. They just picked this person at random. There's nothing about their personality or the history of that character like that would make this make sense. Whereas here, it does.
It really does, I
because
think.
Leanne has always been up to some weird dodgy business stuff. Remember when she had the Valandros and she was up to weird crap with that?
Yeah.
She's always fiddling around with stuff.
And even
with the
saying,
Institute, she was fiddling around with the computers and deleting stuff. And
but even with the Institute and people saying she wouldn't have really got into that. And I definitely said that. But they did kind of semi-set it up with where she was going to see mediums after Ollie's death as well.
Yes, they did.
She
was vulnerable and they used their child against her, and she's done the same thing to Toya now, hasn't she?
People might say, well, how could she even consider doing that? That's so below the belt, considering what she's been through with Ollie.
Because she was mad.
But she was a woman scorned.
Because her
That's
sister
all I can say.
shagged her husband.
Yeah, and then has just been lying about it.
Maybe some people do not realise how long Nick and Leanne have been a thing, but they've been a thing since almost
97, 98.
Toya and Leanne were in the show.
Yeah.
This is like not just, oh, you nicked my current boyfriend. This is, you've stolen the love of my life. And also, why didn't you fancy him at any point before now? If I'm going to criticise any part of this story, it's where did Toya and Nick's relationship come from?
Because that did come into it today, didn't it?
But they built that up.
You've been eyeing him up for years, and Toya says, oh, it was just because through the Institute and we seem to be the only people.
It's because Leanne forced them together.
Yeah, but that's what I criticised in the summer, and that's one of the things that didn't sit right with me. The fact that these two that have previously shown no inkling of romantic interest in each other of quite quickly, and they did do a good job that they didn't just jump immediately into bed like some soap couples would do, and they made it an emotional affair. But it's the weakest part of the story, but I still think they've done a good enough job,
and I genuinely think that they have sweet moments with each other. So anyway,
so Toya gets herself arrested, doesn't she? Which is the drama on Monday.
Yeah, because Nick and Leanne have uncovered this fraud.
Yes.
And they call the police, and Kit comes and arrests her.
Yeah, and she's again very much in character in the interview room, just kind of saying, "What me? I didn't do it. This is ridiculous. You think I'd do this?" And she wasn't getting like over emotional. She was just very logically saying, "I'd be pretty dumb to use TLH Holdings as the name of it, wouldn't I?"
Yeah.
Which is true, actually. It was a bit of a silly move. But
in case anyone wondered, Toya Laverne
Habib, yes. Back in the bistro, Leanne's telling Nick, look, there's no way that Toya would do this.
This was great when she started
playing
this.
Along and saying, oh my gosh, my sister's been
way.
wrongfully arrested.
And then she lets other people fill in the gaps because Amy comes along and says,
Toya is having money problems, isn't she? But Nick even is being kind of led... at what point?
Yeah, I know.
Because this is where the rug was pulled out from under us at the end of the episode, wasn't it? When we were thinking that Leanne was leading Nick down the path that she was attempting to, but then it turned out that he was just playing on her all episode. But I think at this point, I think that he probably would be.
Yeah,
he's not had a chance to talk it through with Toya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. We get to see a bit more of the interview room stuff, the Rose 2001.
Well, no, hang on, no, this was pivotal.
She's saying she had access.
Don't just brush over it.
Then.
Because Kit says that you've got security set up on your secret account, and the password is Rose 2001. What does that mean? What's the meaning of that? And he says, you know what that means, and then she's crying because he interviewed her about the baby.
Yeah.
And so
he's being a total arse kid.
Not only this is when she realises that Leanne has done this, because there's only a few people who know who Rose is. So no,
I don't think there is.
Yes.
Because I thought that they had a proper funeral about it.
Not okay, but they didn't go around and no.
Yeah, you're right. There's only a few people. There's
only a few people that would have set up that password to be that, and she says this to to Nick, and she knows that it was Leanne and she's been betrayed, and that Leanne knows everything. And this is why she starts crying. Not only is she in trouble, and not only is she sad that she's reminded of her baby, but she also knows that Leanne will stop at nothing. And Leanne's done it, and Leanne doesn't care how she feels about it, and she did it on purpose because Leanne knew that she'd find out that she'd made that password, and she did it as a hidden FU, and Toya is devastated.
Yeah.
And she's crying.
Well, her solicitor has a chat with her in the side room, doesn't he? And he's saying, oh, I knew Imran. What a hot guy he was. Well, he doesn't quite say that, but he's like, he was a really awesome solicitor, and if he were here today, he'd be telling you that all the evidence is pointing towards you, but I didn't do it, she says. But he's confident he'll set her free.
When he said this, when the solicitor was saying, oh, I knew your husband and he was a really great lawyer, I was kind of expecting him to say, and, you know, said that you didn't kill him, and now you're saying you didn't do this. So I just hope justice is served. I was expecting him to backstab her because he had loyalty to Imran, but he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like possibly this scene was just put in there to pre-remind us of who Imran was before the big Christmas Day revelation.
More to come.
Semi-revelation there. But anyway, Nick later on is picking up Toya from the station. She's being released on bail, and she's saying, someone has set me up, and I think it's Leanne. Now, we don't really get to see any of Nick's reaction to this, which is why they were able to so masterfully pull the wool over, at least my eyes, as the rest of the episode plays on. Because Nick... Well,
no, when they go back home, Nick's like, no, Leanne...
Oh, yes, you're right. There was a little bit.
This.
There was a little bit at home, wasn't there? Toya's saying, I think Leanne's playing a long game, and Nick's really not sure. You're right. But I still left this couple of scenes thinking, okay,
does Nick buy
it or not? And then when he goes back to the bistro later and tells her that Toya's claiming to be innocent and blaming her, Leanne says, that's crazy. It definitely wasn't me. And I thought that Nick then believed Leanne because he had been believing her at the beginning of the episode.
Well, yeah, she's like, oh, I don't think Toya did this, but it definitely wasn't me.
Yeah. So sorry, that's it, isn't it? You're right. Leanne's saying still, I don't think it was Toya.
Because in this scene, you're supposed to think that Nick does believe that Leanne didn't do it, because Leanne, you would expect, would immediately jump on saying it must have been Toya if she's blaming me.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this was her.
She's still playing a really good game of saying, "Oh, poor Toya, I can't believe it." But putting that
seed of doubt into Nick's
brain.
She
doesn't need to blame Toya. She's letting everyone else do that work for her, so it feels like it's their idea. She's like, right, Toya needs to stay away from the bistro for the good of the business, so she's not allowed in.
She comes in herself later anyway, doesn't she?
Toya does, yeah.
Yeah, Toya does.
She's like, right, I'm going in. I don't care if you say I'm barred, Amy. I'm going to speak to Leanne.
Yeah, Leanne. She goes in to speak to Nick. Then Leanne comes in because Amy's texted Leanne to say, look, you better get yourself to the bistro. Toya's just turned up. Massive argument breaks out with Leanne calling Toya a liar. This is the moment where she turns it as like, no, it was you. You're a liar. You're a thief. And Nick, so we think, has been led to believe the same thing. And he's like, you're right, all the evidence is pointing towards you, Toya. And Leanne's like, oh, I'm devastated by this. Because Toya said, oh, you're loving this, aren't you? And Toya gives up, clops off. And Leanne's like, oh, my sister, what's happened to her? Back at the flat, Nick and Leanne are kind of reflecting on the day and how Nick can't believe Toya would do all of this. And he's like, oh, maybe I could make you living here a permanent arrangement. And I was watching this going, Nick, you absolute idiot. You even played like a fiddle. But then the twist at the sting of the tail. Well, hang on,
even Leanne looks a bit disgusted with how gullible Nick is being.
She does. And this is what I was saying earlier about it's quite nice not to be on either side here and just enjoying the chaos. Because if I was 100% in team Leanne, I'd be like hating Nick and Toya for pulling this trick on her. But I just ended the episode going, hey, Nick and Toya, you teach that bitch Leanne a lesson. Because at the end of the episode trick is that we cut to the Chariot Square hotel room where Toya's staying in. Nick knocks on the door and it looks like they're actually playing Leanne at her own game.
Well, they are
actually. And Toya's like, this is war. And they have a bit of an end of episode snog. So yeah, I was just going, this is utterly fantastic.
When they said it, because one of the things that we were saying about Toya is that she's lost her Battersby spirit because she's now her Habib and she's not playing the game properly. But when she said this is war and you realise that she had pulled a fast one on Leanne and double crossed her back, it's like, right, she's fighting back and this is what we wanted. We didn't want Toya to roll over and be the bigger person.
No.
We wanted proper Battersby fight. Yeah. And we're getting one.
We didn't get to see a whole lot of this story on Tuesday. It was only half an hour or so, but we get a little scene of Toya and Nick together and kind of saying, how are we going to get through tomorrow? It's going to be really tough.
But
yeah, Leanne's filming them with a webcam, isn't she? She's
so
doing
she
an
now
old.
knows.
Who was it? Was it Maria that was filming them on Gary and Sarah on a webcam earlier?
But this was fantastic because she's double crossed them back, and now she knows that they know. Well, they don't know. It's so confused. It happened so everything moved really quickly with this. This could have been weeks worth of sneaking and lying.
I'm glad it was brilliantly condensed revenge.
So she now
knows that Toya and Nick are tricking her, so her next move is to take all of these Christmas presents that she ordered from Amazon or wherever it was a couple of weeks ago, dump them on Craig's desk in the police station and say, how's about that then? Here's some evidence that shows that Nick and Toya are in cahoots
together. Well, she's saying it's not just Toya, it's also Nick.
Yeah,
and here's the proof.
Dragging him into it.
Because here's I think she takes the label off of one of the presents and puts it on another present. And honestly, at this point, Craig should have just gone somewhere else because Christmas does not go well.
Christmas didn't go well for Craig, does it? So Bistro's all been set up for the wedding, as we know. There's more Toya and Nick playing tonsil tennis.
It was really okay, right? Kissing is gross, but I did think it was sweet that they could finally be out in the open and, you know, hug and be a couple.
Oh yeah, they kind of do a kiss in front of everybody. Was that on the wedding day? I can't remember.
I think it was because everyone's at the tables going
yeah, that's right.
Everyone was kind of like elbowing and pointing, weren't they, and enjoying like the
So the drama
scandal
kicks off when the police come along to the bistro to meet or to arrest Toya and Nick. Because of what Leanne, the whole present thing, and saying that there's been an allegation made against them. So was it just Nick? Yeah, Nick goes along, doesn't he, for questioning?
Can I just ask, is anyone who is involved in the police, would this really happen on Christmas Day, or would they just like give it a rest?
Well, they said it's just another Wednesday, isn't it, to them?
But is it though? Because if there's any day where I think you can do like arrest tomorrow, especially a fraud, like do it tomorrow.
Is this like The Purge, where one day a year the police just take the day off and everybody else can get up to whatever dramas they want to. Yeah. Except in The Purge, everyone's murdering each other, and here they're just backstabbing each other.
They're just buying things off Amazon.
Yeah, buying stuff with a fake account. So anyway, Nick's in the police station, and he's like, come on, my mum's getting married here. The fact that Gail didn't seem to blink, considering that her son was
worse.
Yeah, that felt a little bit off to me. But he's like, well, yeah, I've been set up. I bet these frilly knickers are brands that Leanne likes. I need to get back. This is just Leanne wasting time. So he manages to get back to the police station, the bistro pretty quickly, doesn't he? Just in time to catch Gail's vows. But Toya worries that Leanne's got a bit more up her sleeves.
Oh, this was when they kissed at the reception. Toya and Nick snog.
Oh yeah, and this is what sets it off, doesn't it? Everyone's ogling them, and then Leanne kind of comes in and does her slow clap and like, oh, well done. Classic. Never mind the happy couple. Today's all about you, innit? And this is where we get the brilliant locking horns of Battersby sisters that I have been wanting ever since this has come. And when we had the slap back in September, but this was a stage up from that. So Nick's trying to get Leanne to calm down, but she just like, oh, look at you acting all macho to impress her. Toya's like, oh, well, no. I can't remember how she mentioned Simon. It was like Simon was tough. You're like, just so wet, or something.
She's like, oh, well, she said something like, he couldn't wait to get away from me.
Yeah, this is when, because she talks about Simon, and Leanne says that don't you dare mention my son's name, and I think it was after that Toya says, well, look, he couldn't wait to get on the first boat out of here.
And Leanne shoves Toya, and Toya's like really shocked that she shoves her.
Yeah. But this was the best bit about it, when Leanne says, well, at least I didn't have to drive him into a wall to get rid of him. That was the lowest blow. Maybe not as bad as using Rose as the password.
That was the worst.
But bring in that old chestnut out of
Toya
the secret
her.
compartment. There was the punch. That was a brilliant punch, and the sound effect that they used for it. It wasn't a slap. It wasn't a slap. That was a full-on Battersby punch. And whereas I'd been thinking a little bit that although Leanne seems to have regained her Battersby spirit, Toya had been a little bit not quite there. She's but that punch was full Battersby back in action again. It was also amazing.
Everyone obviously is watching this enraptured, but Abby picks up on what Leanne says.
Yes.
When she says, you drove him into a wall to get rid of him. And obviously, Abby is the mother of Imran's baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's intimately interested in what has happened to Imran. And everybody believed that it was an accident.
Yeah, and only Leanne and I think Spider knows.
Maybe Nick does, but I'm not sure. I think Nick does know at this point.
Does he? I can't remember.
Because he tries to cover for her later.
In a way, I'm really excited that this has come out again. In a way, I'm thinking, I wish that they'd just kind of bury that, because I was never happy with the massive character assassination they did on Toya when they had to admit that she purposefully drove him into the wall. I don't buy it.
I wonder why Leanne just didn't take that to the police instead of setting her up for fraud.
Maybe she thought that was too low a blow.
The password was worse.
Yeah.
I think that
maybe she just forgot. Like Curry writers were hoping that we weren't.
Well, they brought it up.
They brought it up. Yeah, it was amazing.
I don't think that anything will come of it, because I think that even if the police decide to investigate, literally the only person who has got anything to say on the matter is Leanne, and by the time they get to her to get her to give evidence, she will have made it out with Toya.
Well, if I was, I think it's evidence. Working towards a making up before it comes up, because obviously
there's
I think
way to prove
Leanne
it now.
knows that Spider knows, but he's not going to be coming back in and giving any evidence. Well,
it's going to reflect poorly on him, isn't it? If he knew and he's a police officer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't think that Spider would say anything. You're right.
Anyway,
but it was a great moment, because you're right. They were watch. I loved how Debbie moved her chair.
Debbie's like, I'm going to join in, and Ronnie's like, sit down.
Well, no, yeah, she does. She moves her chair first, like, right. And she says, right, let's get stuck in.
Yes.
Debbie didn't have a lot to do on Christmas Day, but she was absolutely perfect.
I want to know.
I don't think she cares. She just wanted to get. It's like a cartoon fight where there'll just be a puff of smoke, and Debbie's like, let's get in there.
Debbie comes out and grabs her hat and puts it back on and gets back into the cloud.
Yeah, that was superb. But yeah, just you got the little moment where Abby's loving it, and then her face falls, and she confronts Nick at the end of the episode, doesn't she? And he's like, oh no, don't worry about it. She was just sticking the knife in. But it does make me wonder, is Abby going to be going down this route now? I hope so, because I'm not going to say that Abby's been underused this year, because she did have that AI deepfake story, but that was a bit of a flub, wasn't it? That story.
Great, that story.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't want Toya to get in trouble because of this. I just want it to be forgotten about. But just for that moment when things were tense, Leanne bringing that in as the line to fire back to Toya was brilliant.
So she punches.
Yeah,
Toya
punches. There's a whole hair pulling going on. Craig blusters in, because why not? I don't know who could have called him, but
Leanne chucks the cake on the floor.
Yeah.
She throws glass at
I thought that... No, Toya was the one that threw the vase, wasn't it?
Yeah, Toya throws the vase.
Leanne's too busy biting Craig's hand and kneeing him in the ghoulies, which is
brilliant.
I missed as well, though, because apparently she used his CES spray on him as well, because
so great.
Which he mentions today, which I didn't see.
I didn't see that. I think maybe they cut that.
I loved the fight. I wish it had been just a little bit longer. Give it another 10-20 seconds, it would have been absolutely perfect.
Seriously, we needed another 10-20 seconds of this, because this was epic.
It was the best kind of fighty fight we've seen in Coronation Street for a long time.
We were just saying the other day that, and I said Christmas Day fight. I wanted a good Christmas Day fight.
I know.
And we had a pretty good one, but it would have been better if it had been just slightly longer. But anyway, Craig has to drag them into the police station.
Yeah, he's like bloodied and bruised, and his eyes are red where it's clearly he's been CS sprayed. I thought it was a bit like when he says to the desk sergeant, sorry, I know I was supposed to bring them round the back, but I can't even
get that.
It was basically saying police would not bring people they'd arrested in through this door, so we need to explain it in the script as to why he is.
I know, and then Coronation Street is like, there you go, now you got to shut up about it because we explained it, and then we go, why did they bother saying that?
I don't think that they needed to.
They can't win.
I would have thought that people we've seen being arrested.
We see people go through there all the time.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's where we're left on Thursday, which leads us into Friday's episode, which was some brilliant scenes of the pair of them in their cell how amazing
Toya
to have
and
the two
Leanne.
of them, Toya and Leanne, locked up for, 3-4 scenes there. This is perfect drama / sitcom material where just the two of them are forced to confront each other. Toya's kind of trying to talk to Leanne, isn't she, on the beginning of Friday's episode, and Leanne's just lying there on
Not
her cell
interested.
saying, don't want to talk to you. You got whatever consequences are coming your way, you deserve them. We got to flip back to that scene every now and then. Meanwhile, Nick's waking up on the sofa at 8:30 to a cup of cold coffee from Sam, who's already busy making his model aeroplane kit, because apparently Sam's into aeroplanes now. And Nick says, look, I'm really sorry for what happened yesterday. It's complicated. Poor Sam is... He's the main innocent victim throughout all of this, isn't he? He's really the only one that hasn't done anything wrong, but he's probably feeling the most guilty of everybody, because he's like saying, oh, if only I'd told Leanne ages ago that you and her had been seeing each other. And so Nick's trying to get him to think that it isn't his fault, but I totally buy that Sam is putting it all on himself, and I think all of the adults need to have a good old talk to themselves about the fact that poor lovely Sam is being made to feel bad during all of this.
He's also suffering too, because he's just a little kid and he's having to deal with all of this.
All of the upset and change of who's living there and who's not living. And
ironically, he reminds me of Chesney in The House with Les and Scylla.
Yeah.
When he was surrounded by chaos and arguments and dysfunctional adults, and he was having to be the adult himself. So
yeah, you're right. There is definitely
kind of
similarity
ironic
there. Yeah. So, by the way, speaking of Chesney, no further on the Van Man mystery this week.
I think the Van Man's parked up for Christmas.
I don't know what his other thing's going on there.
I think his wife boxed him in with her Mini or whatever she's got.
So Nick's walking down the street later, sees Adam and Alia, and asks them for a bit of legal advice. And they say, look, what you need to do is prove that Toya didn't set up this account. Genius, thank you for that. He carries on walking. He carries on walking up to the bistro with Amy, who mentions all of these texts that he supposedly sent from Tenerife, and it was like, at last, this.
You're so funny. This was such a bee in your bonnet.
No, this was a mega bee in my bonnet. Surely, Toya would have mentioned that to Nick. Why did you keep sending all of that? He's been back for 2 or 3 days now. She could have texted him while he was on holiday. This, I'm going to say, is a plot hole here. Toya should have mentioned it. And I don't like to accuse Curry of plot holes quite as much as some fans do.
They did mention it once.
What do you mean?
She did say to him, and he was like, no, I didn't do it. And she didn't really believe him.
Did she? I don't know.
This was ages ago, though. This was before he went on holiday.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so this gets the little cogs in his head whirring. Back at the cells, Toya and Leanne have had their breakfast. Was it? Toya was like, it was a nice touch that they gave us a mince pie.
I just love the idea that the like in the cells, they're like, oh, should we just give them
Christmas?
Like somebody went to the shop and bought mince pies, and they went through the checkout. And
it's Boxing Day, innit? They're probably on sale.
Well, they probably had about 40 mince pies, and they're got a big family gathering today. No, these are for prisoners. Okay.
See, I don't like mince pies, so this would just be
you'd be like, why the punishments will never end?
Yeah.
This is cruel and unusual.
They talk about, they have this conversation about, oh, you're always stealing my stuff. Nice little reminiscing to scenes that we didn't see because it was before they came into the show. Oh no, I suppose there's a little bit like. Well, Leanne mentions that Toya stole Peter off of her, and Toya's like, no, there was a bit of time between those actually. But then the whole Imran menage a trois gets brought up, and also then they mention this Care Bear that Leanne supposedly got from Les when she was little that Toya pinched as well, and Toya said, oh, you're such a victim, Leanne. I've spent the whole year fighting for you, trying to get you away from this damn institute, and then when you got cancer you said you couldn't support me. I would only grew closer to Nick because he was the only one that could see the institute for what they were. Yes, we fell in love, but so what if I still love him? Where does this leave us? And Toya's like, oh, things will never be the same again, but we don't have to be enemies. So yeah, clearly Toya is quite... She wants them to just all kiss and make up, doesn't she?
I don't see how they can't go back to normal, can they? And also,
I don't know how they can, but I totally buy how Toya would think this, because in her head, yes, Leanne has accused her of fraud, but I think Toya's thinking, I'm not going to go down for this. I clearly didn't do it. I think if I was in Toya's shoes, I wouldn't be that worried. I know we've seen, countless people sent down on Coronation Street with things they didn't do, but I don't think
no, I
Toya
think it's clearly
that,
obviously her, and there's evidence to prove that it is her, and
so it makes sense that Toya just wants to kiss and make up. So I just don't know whether she can say to the police, oh, just drop the charges, just forget about it. I know it doesn't work like that, but I just think that the legal system in Corrie doesn't necessarily play by the rules of this country all the time.
No, I know, but Leanne's not only committed fraud, but she's also set somebody else up for it, which I think is another crime on top. So, and then they're still in trouble for the assault, which is another thing. But they also she brings up the Care Bear.
The Care Bear, yes.
Because the Care Bear that was actually bought by Toya.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I tell you what, sometimes Leanne is such a bloody little goody two-shoes, isn't she? She's like the Hermione of Coronation Street, because she's like, but I'm perfect and lovely, and I only did one thing wrong, which, okay, maybe two. Killed my husband, and I had an affair with my sister's husband, but other than that, I was a good girl even from the very beginning, even when I was a little toe rag. I tell you what, I would have believed it more if Toya had said, I nicked it from the shop, because that's what she was like when she was little. She wasn't a good girl that saved up her dinner money.
No, she wasn't.
She was a right little tyke, just the same as Leanne was.
Yeah, she would have totally twacked it. I just can't see how this is going to end up not being severely devastating for Leanne.
Yeah, because she's screwed up so majorly here that she's going to be in prison.
Yeah,
maybe.
what Toya and Nick have done is morally inexcusable.
You can't be arrested for cheating.
But Leanne has literally set someone up for fraud, which is ironically what Rowan's just gone down for, isn't it? Yes. So she's just as bad as him. And if he's been, has he been locked up? I can't even remember.
No, he hasn't been sentenced. We haven't found out. Nobody's told us.
I'm actually, and I'm not basing this on anything, I am genuinely starting to worry that this could be an exit storyline for Leanne. Do you have any concerns that we're leading towards that?
I think I said before that I was worried that Leanne might be leaving.
I really hope not.
There's literally no reason for me to think that, because she is a major character.
I've said ever since...
And that's why I now don't think that.
I've said ever since this affair came out with Toya and Nick, or ever since it started, I don't know how they can ever resolve this between the two of them. But... yeah, I'll be absolutely gutted if Leanne goes at the end of this. And I like how Toya is trying to show that, we're stronger together, united, nobody can get between the Battersby sisters, that kind of thing. But you can't say that if the law are involved now. So
I know, that's the trouble.
I'm concerned.
This is why it's really fascinating, because, Leanne has kind of opened the box of consequences that she can't escape, and I hope that Coronation Street doesn't just wave a magic wand, because this is what we said before about consequences. It's not interesting to watch people do something like set somebody up for fraud and then have everyone say, oh, well, never mind, you were just upset. I
don't know how long the prison sentence would be for what Leanne's done.
6 months? It wouldn't be loads, would it?
If it's only a short one, then I think they should do it.
Yeah,
I think that...
we can't let people off of doing things, because then the whole show becomes a farce and nothing matters.
I mean, Leanne, I'm sure that Jane needs a bit of a break. She's been pretty full on this year, hasn't she?
I think she might want to sleep.
And as we know from other characters who've been very much off our screens this year, Corrie does go through years where some characters just don't have anything to do. So it wouldn't... Yeah, I think that would be worth doing. Honestly, I think it would be. Anyway, look...
Send her to jail.
Nick, meanwhile, is having a look at his CCTV footage to try and get evidence against Leanne, and finds her looking shifty with the two phones. So that's basically done the job there.
I think what happens on the CCTV, we got a bit confused, because we see him looking at her. She's standing with a jacket on, and she gets one pocket, she's got one phone, in the other pocket she's got another phone. And I think what happens is he realises that the day that they were arrested, she was wearing the same jacket, and therefore the phone should still be in her pocket.
Oh, yes, that's what it was, wasn't it? Because eventually, Kit comes
Yes.
into the cell and tells Toya that she can go home, but now Leanne's being arrested for fraud because they've got hold of this burner phone, and she denies all knowledge of it. She says it's a setup, but can I have a solicitor anyway? And the solicitor reads out this statement from Leanne, basically denying it and advising that they investigate Nick. She's planning to no comment her way through the whole interview, and so she does. And even when Kit shows her the CCTV footage, she's like, no comment. But she's looking worried, and she's like, the realization of the extent of what she's done is starting to dawn on her.
And she's also clearly maybe thawed very, very slightly on Toya. But
I think she
definitely not on Nick. She's still trying to throw him under the bus, writing her little statement going, investigate Nick, he definitely did it. What a bitch. She just can't let go.
I think that she's probably got more right to be mad at Toya still, though, because it is the blood is thicker than water thing, and you know, even though she has been really close to Nick, and people have said that the marriage has been on the rocks for ages, I don't know, I don't agree with that, but I prefer the idea that that Leanne and Toya are Battersby's united by the end of this, but if I were Leanne, I'd probably find it easier to forgive Nick. I don't know. Anyway, look, Leanne gets let out. She's back in the flat later. Sam says, you have both behaved atrociously, and gives her the laptop back, which she got him for Christmas, maybe. I don't know. He says you've been cruel, just cruel. And I think, again, that has made Leanne
really
take
awful
stock of what she's done, and she kind of heads off with her tail between her legs into the pub, where she gets consoled by none other than Mr. Steve McDonald.
Old fling McDonald.
Interesting there, because he invites her to stay with him at the end, and I was like, this is not a curveball that I was expecting the story to take, and I don't think that they're going to end up sleeping together, or at least, you know, we're not going to be starting Monday's episode with her waking up in his bed. No, I know she's done it once before.
But if she thought she was up against a foe fighting Toya for Nick, then imagine fighting Cassie for Steve.
Yeah. But they're still at loggerheads, aren't they?
Well, I know, but I still think Cassie's nose will be out of joint if they get close.
Yeah.
Also, I'm kind of fascinated to see Ken interacting with Leanne.
I'm definitely not adverse to the idea of,
because of Peter.
Yeah, I'm definitely not adverse to the idea of Steve being involved with this, because, you know, get him away from comedy gurning storylines and getting into something serious. He's an interesting ally that I hadn't considered.
No, this is very interesting.
Yeah. Basically, at the end of the episode, Toya and Nick are in the flat having their wine later, and Toya's wishing that it hadn't got this far. They're all in completely over their heads. Again, it made delicious viewing, but they're all like,
fantastic, because Nick is like, no, she deserves this, and Toya's like, I wish this hadn't happened, but that's mirrored in what Leanne is like to Nick.
Yes.
Leanne's like, I'm still going to throw Nick under the bus. And Nick is like, yeah, Leanne deserves everything she gets. Now, here's another curveball. They do say love is close to hate. Is the fact that these two are still really so hating each other, is it a sign that there might be still something there that might get rekindled at some point?
What, with Nick and Leanne?
Yeah. Because of how passionately they hate each other. Mm. And Toya's like given up on both. You know, she's like, I'm not.
She's not given up on Nick.
She's not. She's given up on hating Leanne, and she wants Nick to as well. And Leanne is given up on hating Toya, but there's still this thing between. And how is Toya going to cope if both of these people are fighting each other? She's going to have to pick Nick, otherwise the whole point of she'd be back where she started.
I think it's much more narratively and characteristically satisfying if she sticks with Leanne. It's a little bit
Toya?
Yeah. It's a bit like, you know, we watched Frozen again the other day, and it's a bit like Anna and Elsa at the end.
True love's kiss.
Yeah, she didn't need no man to give her a true love's
Spoiler
kiss.
Alert.
But I think that Corrie seems to be driving us down the route of no, Toya and Nick, they're for keeps.
Well, it was all for nothing if she dumps him now.
Oh, so exciting.
Right.
Really, really pleased with how that story went this Christmas.
Fantastic Christmas viewing that was. But there's still more to come, and we've got to get through this really quickly.
Relationship drama.
Right, so
I'm sorry.
We're supposed to have left by now.
We're sorry, Dad.
Daisy's blooming on Monday. Bethany overhears Daisy and Bernie talking about the fact that she's going out with Kit. And Bethany's making these barbed comments and she gets them fired right back at her, which is great because Bethany, I don't think, is any match for Daisy.
Bethany and Daisy, I've got so much time for their sniping.
I really want more of it. And Bernie's like, look, make sure you treat Kit right, because obviously, you know, she would be the mother-in-law, wouldn't she? Imagine that, having Bernie and Jenny getting drunk at Christmas because they're both having the baby playing on the floor. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen because I do think it's Daniel's baby. So Daisy and Kit have dinner in speed dial later, and then Bethany and Daniel turn up at a nearby table, and it's really awkward because Daisy and Bethany hating it, and Daniel and Kit are being oblivious. And then Bernie comes in.
Daniel just spends most of this week looking miserable. I just get the major impression that Daniel knows that he's stuck in the second best relationship here, and he would much prefer to be with Daisy. He's utterly kidding himself all week.
I also think that he feels as though he couldn't leave Bethany now because of what's happened with her, but she seems to be totally over it by the end of the week. having a colostomy bag.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't care.
She's empowered. I'll wear what I want.
Yeah. So Bernie comes and has a takeaway. She picks up a takeaway and she tells Kit that I've had a word with Daisy. He's not very impressed about it. Meanwhile, Daisy and Daniel are having small talk about how awkward everything is. And Daniel is obviously not very fond of Kit and the fact that she's going out with him, and also that he accuses her of being on the rebound because they'd only just slept together. Kit and Daisy head off later, and Daisy wants to go back to her place, but Daniel is just watching, seething with jealousy, and Bethany can tell that he's kind of hung up on this. And basically all of Tuesday, Daniel's just moping around, being jealous of Daisy and Kit, but clearly Daisy is also goading him on because she's looking to see if he's watching her kissing Kit. On Wednesday, Kit's feeling a bit awkward because Daisy's bought him a present and he hasn't bought her anything.
Lovely brown jumper.
That's right. And I
was going to say it was a present, but it wasn't I don't know what colour.
Fetching.
Maybe that's his colour.
Maybe it's camouflage.
Oh yeah.
So,
good for sneaking around if you're a detective.
Standing next to brown brick walls.
Yeah.
You got to camouflage him somehow, haven't you? I mean, he's enormous. Maybe it's to make him look shorter. So if he stands in front of a brick wall, he just looks like a head that's hovering ridiculously.
They should have got in the brick, you know, the Joni Coronation Street brick cardigan.
He'd look lovely in a cardigan, except he'd probably come up to his belly button. So, Daisy's sneaking around, trying to get hold of Daniel, asking him if they can talk because she wants to drop off Bertie's Christmas present, but actually she's got something else to tell him. Over at Red Bank, Bethany has bought Daniel a vintage watch, and he's embarrassed. He's like, "Oh, I haven't got you anything good. I've got to go and get you a proper present," but it's a fake out.
Yeah, I was going to say that is a proper Christmas Day present fake out.
But can I just say, sorry, no. An engagement ring is an engagement ring. It's not a Christmas present. You're an absolute cop-out. Don't put that money into an engagement ring. I want something different. I want an actual Christmas present. What did you get? What did you get for Christmas? An engagement ring. What do you get for an engagement ring then? A Christmas present. No. What a cop-out.
So materialistic, Gemma.
No.
Bethany didn't mind. She loved it.
No, this is just typical of Daniel. He's
typical
such
man.
A sneaky little git. Right.
The box was the present.
Oh, okay, whatever. Daisy hides as she spies Bethany moaning at Daniel for not giving her a present. She's like, "You obviously are over me and you don't love me anymore." And she's complaining that he hasn't put any effort into it. And again, he hasn't, has he? He hasn't thought of a present. He's bought her a ring.
Yeah, she's not completely wrong, is
She's completely right here. Anyway, he gives her a kiss to shut her up, goes down on one knee and brings this ring out and says, "I'm in awe of you, Bethany. If we can make it through this past year, we can make it through anything." And Daisy's watching this like, ugh.
No,
can't believe it.
She's not scoffing. She's like utterly heartbroken because she should have made a move earlier, really, but she kind of has clearly been thinking, I'm going to get back with Daniel. I'm just going to wait until the time is right.
And we don't know when she's
and we knew that she was going to be texting him today. She was texting him first thing in the morning.
Yes, she was.
I mean, I can't remember whether she says to Jenny, this was the first test that we see at the end of the episode, or whether she kind of already knew.
Well, we don't know when she found out, but the end of the episode is her looking at the pregnancy test results, which is that she is
pregnant.
written
that Shona's pregnant in the notes.
We don't know that yet. I don't know if she is, but...
I reacted to this news as much as I am enjoying this love triangle with them. I did react to this news as somebody else pregnant again. I'm getting a little bit fed up of pregnancy reveals being used as drama in quite quick succession, and especially I think that it was a little clunky, and I get why they put it where they did at the climax of the episode, but having Gail's exit interrupted for that scene, I don't think that was the best move to do that. I think that honestly, I would have probably preferred it if all of the drama with David and Kit and Shona and everybody had been tied up by midway through the episode, so that they could just have the second half an hour all being about Gail. But if they're not going to do that, then at least they could have at least given Gail a proper send-off without cutting to Daisy sitting on the stairs.
Well, she's pregnant, so get over it. I don't know whether she was texting Daniel all day.
Jan McVerry.
I don't know if she was texting Daniel all day because she knew all day, but I'm going to say that she did.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, Kit's making her breakfast.
She doesn't like mushrooms.
No.
See, everyone's got gross breakfasts. Sorry, this is Friday, wasn't it? We got the Battersby's having mince pies, gross. But Daisy's having mushrooms for breakfast, gross. These poor ladies.
I know, it's inflicted. That's why they're all so thin. Being force-fed mushrooms and mince pies for breakfast.
You like both of those things, though, to be fair.
That's why I'm fat. Right, so Kit's like, let's go on a Christmas walk. And she says, she's not really excited. She's still texting Daniel all day long. Bethany and Daniel go to Sarah to tell her that they're engaged, and she does not look that happy about it. She goes round to see Adam because he's still recovering, and she's like telling Adam, I'm not really...
This is when Harry gives him the boob card.
Yeah, get well soon because there are boobs to live for, Uncle Adam. So while they're there, Daisy is buzzing on the door to talk to Daniel, and Sarah's like, well, sorry, he's not here. Did you know that they're gone to get the engagement ring resized to kind of rub it in?
Yeah, Sarah's totally rubbing it in there to Daisy, isn't she?
Sarah sees them in the street and says, Daisy was looking for you. Come to the Rovers with me later. And Daisy's totally distracted in the Rovers over pouring pints. And Jenny sees and takes her to one side. And Daisy just tells her, I'm pregnant. And Jenny's face is like, oh my God. Takes her to the back, gives her a cup of tea. And Daisy...
She comes round to the idea pretty quickly, though,
because...
Nana Jenny.
Hang on, because she said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? And Daisy says, I'm going to keep the baby, but I'm really scared. And Jenny's like, can I be happy? Is this so happy? And Daisy's like, yeah. And then Jenny's like, yes, I can't believe I'm going to be a grandma. I love this scene so much. Jenny was so sweet about this, and really, I just loved it.
Well, I enjoyed the little reminiscing they had about Tom.
Oh, that was sweet
later
too.
On as well, because Jenny is like, I remember this from when I was pregnant. And probably a good number of viewers were like, oh, what? When was Jenny pregnant?
Where's Tom?
But yeah, there's still a little untapped corner of Jenny's history that I think there's a lot of mileage in there. But they bring up Tom and to
answer the question,
nice mother-daughter.
He's dead.
He is a dead child.
Yeah,
drowned in a paddling
pool. Daisy says Kit doesn't know yet, but she doesn't say I'm not sure whether Kit's the father. So Sarah, Bethany and Daniel arrive in the pub, and Daniel is asking Daisy, why did you want to talk to me? And she says, I just wanted to know if Bernie liked his present. And Bethany is being very gracious because she feels like she's won this battle now. She's like, I can afford now to be condescendingly nice to Daisy. She's just like, Daisy, thank you so much for that generous gift. Can I speak to you over to one side? And then Daisy's feeling a bit, what does she want to talk to me about? And it's just, she wants her clothes back because she's got her mojo and she can wear what she wants.
Yeah.
And so Daisy's feeling a bit wrong-footed by this.
But she can't let that show, can she? Because when Daniel comes into the back room in the Rovers later, Daisy's just like, how original that you were proposed to on Christmas Day. Yeah, I'm indifferent to your engagement.
Crapping all over it, which is fantastic. And she's like, here's the bag, get out. Here's Bethany's stuff. And she's also trying to hide the fact that she's feeling sick from the pregnancy too. Later on, Kit gets back, and this is after Shona's come and told Daisy that she and Kit had slept together.
Yeah.
So she's like, "What? Why are you sleeping with people?" And he was like, "Well, we were on a break. I don't care about her anymore anyway, and I can't." Daisy's like, "Get out!" But she's the one who was sleeping with Daniel.
I know.
She's
a
like
fine
that.
one to talk.
So she's mad, and then Daisy later is being quizzed by Jenny about why she's so in a mood. And Jenny's like, "Are we in a Who's the Daddy story?" And Daisy's like, "Yeah, we are. We're in a Who's the Daddy story." And it's between... There's
a lot of people involved here. So you got Daisy, you got Shona, you got Kit, you got Daniel, you got Bethany,
David a bit as well.
David a little bit, which is interesting because some of these characters don't really have much cause to mix with each other a lot of the time. You know, especially Shona, who, you know, she stands behind the counter buttering her balms and maybe sometimes has a few funny scenes with David. She really hasn't extended out to many other characters at all over the years. So I'm quite excited that she's going to be bundled in with this bunch here.
Well, this is going to be the biggest story of 2025, isn't it?
Because I think it's going to be a big one for the beginning of the year.
You've got the gangster money, you've got David and Shona's relationship, you've got Daisy, Kit and Daniel, you've got the baby. It's just going to be a mess.
Well, have you noticed that on the ITVX page, you've got the picture of Kit now has replaced Sad Lauren as the picture of Here Is Coronation Street.
Shocked Joel, then it was Sad Lauren, and now it's Mysterious Kid.
Yeah, so the Christmas background. So you reckon the baby's Daniel? You said to me Daniel's earlier. I think so.
It just really makes more sense to tie Daisy to the Barlow clan than to the wintergreen, brown, family.
And you know what I think about Daniel and Daisy together. I think they're absolutely a great match. But I also just kind of want Kit out of this. As I roll my eyes a little bit about Who's the Daddy, but maybe it's not so bad because it's been a while. I just don't really like Kit. So I think the sooner he can be dropped, the better. But I think that he's a bit of a bad smell and he's going to be wafting around that pub for quite a while.
He is such an arse, and that's why I think he's a fascinating, interesting instigator.
Yeah. The other thing that you need to consider here, of course, is the fact that Lucy Fallon is pregnant, and we've mentioned this on the podcast before, so it's no big surprise. But she's got not too long left on the programme. If she was, I think it was back in August that it was announced that she was pregnant. So let's say that her baby's going to be due March, April time. They're probably already filming at least February at the moment. So
I would imagine they're further than, I don't know. But anyway,
so if she goes on her maternity leave,
expected holding pillows.
Let's say March time, then maybe she could still stay until Easter. But whatever the case is, there is definitely a ticking time bomb going there. And
well, look, okay.
I think that Daniel and Daisy are going to be destined to each other at the end of this, and Bethany's going to be probably going off to London or somewhere.
It's not necessarily a spoiler to say that Lucy Fallon is pregnant and therefore something will happen to Bethany, because I can also see them saying Bethany's gone to a journalist course in London because she wants to get her degree before she gets married, or some nonsense like that. It's not necessarily, really heading for a breakup. And then if Bethany were to leave, I can definitely see Daniel and Daisy canoodling behind Kit's back. 100%. And then Kit's going to have to get revenge on Daniel and David. And imagine David and Daniel having to unite against Kit. I
just love the idea of Daisy and Daniel and Bertie and Baby being a little family together.
I loved how
Daniel referred to him as Bertie Wooster as well. That is such a Daniel reference. That's brilliant. Also, just before we move on as well, did anyone else notice that the Rover's kitchen is back to its normal size again? I think maybe we have seen this before. I don't think this is the first time, but the massively TARDIS-like kitchen.
It's the Rover's room of requirement.
It really, really is. What was it?
I don't know why I'm putting so many Harry Potter references.
It's alright, it's Christmas. Time for Harry Potter films. Yeah. I can't remember when it was. Was it earlier this year or was it last year that the Rover's kitchen massively expanded? Yes. But it's back to being a galley kitchen
again. For no real reason whatsoever. We won't get into it. We've got to move on.
Right, so a little bit of swallow before we finish then. So just Monday's episode really. Betsy's hungover after the massive bender she was out on Friday. She's having her breakfast in the cafe with Mason. But to make things worse for her, Lisa comes in and Mason kind of slopes off so that Betsy can get her ear bent by her mum. She's not happy because she's found a picture posted on Mason's social media of the pair of them in his bedroom.
Is it her bedroom? I think it's her bedroom.
Oh, was it her bedroom? I can't
Well,
remember.
Lisa recognises that I think he's in a... Well, they've been in a house together.
But isn't Mason...
Mason doesn't have a bedroom.
No, you're right, he doesn't, does he? But he's staying with Sally at the moment, and I'm sure that Sally wouldn't have allowed any mischief like that going on under her.
So I think
it doesn't matter. But anyway,
Betsy's...
I don't think they've slept together. I think that was the point.
Well, Lisa's a bit cross.
She's cross about it, but Betsy's like, no, we didn't do anything. I was just in a room with him. That's all. Basically, the big reveal on Monday is that Carla proudly announces to the whole of the factory floor that yes, me and Lisa are seeing each other. You better deal with it.
But Lisa doesn't like it.
No.
She gets mad.
Yeah.
And Carla's like, I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah. What is it?
Well, because one minute you're saying you want everyone to know, and then I make a big announcement and you don't like that. But Lisa was like, look, it's one thing to be secret. She's gone from one to the other. It's like, first you're hiding it, and then you're like taking out adverts in the paper or something. Just can you be normal for once? Yeah. But
there wasn't.
We get reminded by Carla that she is keeping the secret for Betsy. That Betsy was the one behind her being knocked on the head when the Warner Brothers invaded the factory. Yes. So she's like, stop being a mouthy cow, and can you please
remember
be decent about this? Mm-hmm. So she invites her to come to lunch with her at the Bistro.
And she turns up with Mason.
And nobody expected this to happen.
That was quite fun.
Because Swain is mad.
Yeah, having Mason there as dinner guest, not the most comfortable person. I don't think she particularly plans to have that happen.
Well, she's like, the Radcliffes are.
Yeah.
Well, she's hiding another secret from Betsy, which is that she thinks the Radcliffes are behind Becky's death. So not only is he a wrong-in from a bad family, but also this family might very well have killed Betsy's mum.
Yeah. At the end of the episode, Carla's telling Lisa that Betsy clearly likes Mason. Look, can't you just let her get on with it? Maybe you're tarring Mason with the same brush as his family. I mean... Has Carla forgotten how Mason was brought into this programme as I'm sure that Liam, as a fellow Connor, is related to Carla in some way. This guy was threatening Liam with a knife, bullied him incessantly. Like a year ago it was still going on, and now Carla's saying, oh, he's not such a bad guy, really.
Well, Lisa decides to be the bigger person, and she offers to make a fresh start with Mason and shakes him by the hand and says, let's get to know each other properly.
So all fun and games for Friday, for this week, for Christmas. Presumably they had a lovely day together. We just don't know. But I do believe they're going to be in it next week, so Twyla fans won't have too long to wait.
No. Then we get Frankie, because we've forgotten about who's Lauren again. No, don't worry, we'll remind you. Here's some more scenes.
Only Monday, though.
So
they got it out of the way for Chris. That would have totally... Can you imagine how much more miserable Wednesday's episode would have been if we'd
had Lauren with a baby and looking at a Christmas tree.
Yeah. I said that I didn't think that David and Adam's feud had much of a place on Christmas Day's wedding alongside the wedding, but this would have made it a lot worse.
So, right, Dee Dee says to Alia, please can you go to Lauren's plea hearing and see what happens? And Lauren speaks to her solicitor, and the solicitor's saying to her, if you're found guilty, you could be going down, but Frankie might be able to stay with you after you've been sentenced. If you plead not guilty and it turns out that you agreed that it was self-defence, you might be able to convince the jury. But just remember, the prosecution is going to do everything they can, including dragging up your past, to discredit you, and it's going to be really, really hard.
And there's quite a lot to drag up, really.
And then Max is visiting Lauren, and he's like, oh, it's going to be great. And she says, no way, look, they're going to bring up everything that happened, the far right stuff.
What if they make me look like some kind of Nazi, she says.
And then Max says, oh, but you were groomed. And honestly, she still never says anything about I don't feel that way, and even this is a big...
for Lauren's sake, they don't put you on the jury, because you wouldn't even listen.
This is a big admittance, because she'd never even admitted that she was part of this. She just kind of acted like she was just making the tea and wasn't involved. And it was
does talk about how
she
was passed around the men as well.
Well,
that
yeah,
kind of seedy side of it.
I think that feels like a big retcon to me, because that only came up when Roy was around, and I never got the vibe from it, but okay, she says that happened. I believe the character, I just don't believe that when they wrote it, they had that in mind. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe not.
Because, white supremacists are really upstanding gentlemen,
normally. She's at the moment thinking that she's going to plead guilty, but Max says, no, plead not guilty.
Well, she's like, Joel's going to...
she does.
Yeah, okay. And so Max feels very confident that they're going to get through, and everyone keeps warning that it's going to be a rough, bumpy ride. She thanks Max on the phone later for helping her stand up for herself, and she's smiling.
I know. That was the biggest Christmas miracle of them all. We actually get to see Lauren's face light up for just a second.
Yeah, but now Max is worried, and she hears him being worried.
Yeah, Dee Dee's put the frighteners on Max by saying, well, this prosecution is actually pretty good.
Well, it's going to involve him.
It's not going to be as easy. Yeah.
And I don't think he realised that before.
Yeah. I mean... I'm going to say clearly she's going to get away with it, isn't she?
But do you not think it's going to come up, right? If you're the prosecution and you got this person saying, oh no, that was the old me, I was groomed. I'm not like that at all. They tricked me. I don't have any of those tendencies. Wouldn't it be enough to say, are you or are you not dating a member of that gang right now who was also involved and actually went to prison for it? But how are you going to explain that? Oh, we were both groomed. Yeah, you were, technically, but it doesn't look good, does it?
Yeah, but I don't think it has anything to do with did she or did she not plot to murder Joel.
Well, then you wouldn't bring it up at all, would you? No, of course it's part of that, Michael. They're going to bring it up. They said that they're going to bring it up.
Just as a bit of a character discrediting thing. But at the end of the day, I think that any good defence lawyer could say, that is irrelevant. This is what happened on the night that Joel died.
If you're allowed to bring it up...
Yes, she killed him, but no, it wasn't.
If you're allowed to bring it up at all, then it's relevant.
But I think... Is it one of these things where if you're on the jury and the prosecution brings it up and then the judge says, jury, you need to...
No, they wouldn't be allowed to even bring it up then.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't care. I don't care. She's going to get off.
Honestly, yeah, I don't care either way if she gets... Sorry, I don't.
I just want Max to kind of leave her there and then get involved in the Platt family story, which is a lot more interesting to me. Yep. Just carry on his life being a videographer. He's the Ernest Bishop of the new age, isn't he?
Yeah. I heard Ernest Bishop had a bit of a shaky start as
well. Right, so Cassie and Ken's story came into a little bit on Friday. It's nothing new particularly. They're still sniping at each other, Cassie and Steve. She's still poisoning Ken and smiling as she does it. But Ken has invited her to the ballet because Mary can't come. And Cassie tells Steve that he needs to find a place of his own to live. That's basically it, wasn't it?
Well, she's going to be upset when she finds out that Toya's Leanne's moving in as well.
Yeah. But yeah, this seems to be a setup for next week, but we thought we'd better mention it. And that is it for this week's Coronation Street. We got an extra half an hour this week to enjoy. And overall, I'm just leaving this week more satisfied than I've been for a while with how a Christmas week has been. Because even... today's episode was great, and often after Christmas Day it usually has a bit of a come down, but I think everything that was going on with Leanne and Toya and even the Daisy Bethany and Daisy stuff, Daniel stuff, sorry, kept me interested.
I thought this was a brilliant week. I think Coronation Street gave us a really corking Christmas Day episode. I enjoyed the week. I think you're right to say, sometimes it can be a bit of a mixed bag because it's hard to recover from a big climactic episode. But this was certainly much better than last year. I think this was fantastic. I wish that I could give this a 5 out of 5.
It wasn't a 5 out of 5 week, but it was definitely up there with I'm happily giving this a 4.5. I don't know what I'm going to give it 4.5 of.
4.5 breakfast mince pies and
I was
mushrooms.
just thinking something like that. I haven't actually read... Usually I write down some ideas for this, but I haven't. I've just been too caught up in the script. I'm giving this one...
Mysterious Studies?
No, I'm going to give it a 4.5 characters coming back from the dead.
4.5 bits of seaweed clinging to Richard Hillman's
Oh, there we go.
face.
That's what I'll go for. 4.5 strands of... You keep saying seaweed. It was pondweed. He didn't drown in the sea.
All right.
It was algae.
Sorry, I didn't know you were a biologist.
Character of the week this week.
A marine biologist.
Yeah, I am. Did you not know? I am actually
No,
a marine
didn't.
biologist, yeah.
I heard it's easy to get that qualification.
Easy to pretend you're one, anyway. Really difficult character of the week this week. There are
Leanne.
awful... Are you saying Leanne? Are you going for Leanne? No
She's
questions
hilarious.
asked.
Although Toya gets a definite honorary mention for that right hook.
I feel it's wrong to not give it to Gail, considering this is the one final time. I mean, do you expect that we're going to see Gail again on the street?
Never.
She's got lots of links, and
Never.
sometimes characters do come back for one-offs. I just think that, Helen Worth has clearly been on the slow down number of appearance-wise, kind of semi-retirement, call it what you like, for years. I don't think that she's going to come back. But, if Audrey leaves...
Maybe when David dies, Gail will appear as a ghost.
Maybe, and so the cycle continues.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to give this to Gail. I'm right, like, on equal ground with Gail and Leanne and Toya and David. There's been some fantastic character moments this week, but I would feel bad not giving it to Queen of the Cobbles, Gail, after 50 years, because she ain't going to get another chance. So, I hope that everybody else really enjoyed this week as much as we did. Yes, there were things to pick at, but I was a little nervous going into the week, particularly after last week, which I didn't enjoy so much, and I have come out immensely satisfied. It had some great writers. I mean, we had Ian Kershaw on Monday, for example. Jan McVeary I've already praised for Wednesday's episode. It was great. Damon Rochefort, I think, did Tuesdays.
Really, honestly, genuinely great telly.
Yeah, it really, really was. So congrats. Now
4.5.
Oh, fine. There we go. That is the end of Street Talk. Happy Christmas, everyone. We have alluded to the fact, we've said outright, that we need to be on the road and we're already a little bit late. So I'm really, really sorry for anybody who was expecting anything more in the way of news or feedback. We obviously value your feedback. Please do keep on sending it in. Let us know what you thought of this week's Corrie, and we will try and get a bumper one in next week as well. Alongside, of course, the Conversation Street Awards, which will be coming your way in about a week's time. We need to get going. Dad's probably wondering why we've not texted him to say that we've left yet. So thank you everybody so much for listening. Hope you all had a lovely, lovely Christmas, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ta-ra.